again because when I ordered FaZe Bro, it took them like 8 weeks to get here, and then the fucking thing was shit.
I mean, they delivery took 3 months when it was Corona time, but usually it's 2 weeks for me.
No, like I'm talking about normal time. It took them 8 weeks.
Oh, it's usually 2 to 3 weeks for me.
Yeah.
I know they're from New York, yeah, but like 8 weeks is.
I mean, I wish they open in Europe, so I don't have to pay twice as much for the delivery.
And the fucking like airport fees and shit.
I pay to get it from America, but I buy a year's worth, basically.
How much you buy?
A year's worth.
How many times is that?
12.
And so for this reason, it was
Oh, is
necessary that they bring in another actor.
That lasts you an entire
Bremer
year.
was simply
I mean, I'm not that rich, so...
young Tom Riddle.
How much do you have like per day or whatever? I mean,
Coulson was 23 himself, but
1 or 2, depending.
the next
okay.
version of Voldemort that we see on screen belongs to none other than Ralph Fiennes, who assumes the role of the present timeline Voldemort.
I'm not gonna lie, that game actually looks pretty cool.
Interestingly enough,
James
Fiennes
knows how
actually
much I
liked to
spend
take
on
the role at
fuel.
first, and said the following
Uh,
in an
I think you told me last time you hit
interview.
£200.
I was actually ignorant about the film from the
I thought it was 12.
I was approached by the
It's
production.
quite a lot of
Mike
money,
Newell
yeah.
was directing the film that they wanted me to be in.
Alright in saying that,
First
or
time
is it more?
Voldemort was going to appear physically.
It depends on how many
I just sort of thought,
shakers I get as
this
well.
isn't for me. Quite stupidly, I resisted.
I think they were like
Are you getting
I
shakers?
think the clinch of this
Yeah.
I'm
Aren't
just
they
using
like-
one.
was 3 children,
30
but then
per,
probably about 12 to
thingy.
8. She
Tub.
said, what do you
I
mean?
think I have something like 8 or 9 shakers.
Then I rewound.
each shake, the new shaker for each tub.
Fiennes' sister Martha
No, I use it for protein as
His
well.
performance of Voldemort
Huh.
from Half-Blood Prince onward,
I was so confused for a moment.
and it's
I was
obvious
like,
that he
what?
brought his soul into the role. He made it entirely his own.
You know, for my actual protein shaker is like dirty and I can't be asked to wash it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Shut
Next
me.
up came Hero Fiennes Tiffin, who played the 11-year-old version of
Does the
Voldemort
job.
at Wolves Orphanage in London. The orphanage where
More
he
like
left
sexting.
mother
Oh hell yeah, you know.
Tiffin was an important part of the Half-Blood Prince film adaptation, as he gave us all a glimpse of what the Dark Lord was like as a child. Fiennes Tiffin, as you might be able to guess by the name, is related to actor Ralph Fiennes. He's his nephew. Tiffin does an exceptional job at portraying the young wizard, and nails the creepy but innocent representation of Voldemort the filmmakers were going for. This was a boy who knew that he was different, but didn't yet know what he was, and what he was destined to be.
Hey, music stopped.
At the same
just
time as
realised.
Tiffin, Frank Delaney was cast in the role of Voldemort, or
it
at
for the
least
stream.
Tom Riddle. Delaney was an
G
integral part
some
as
G
he's
Fuel was
representative
nice.
for Riddle's character in the flashback in the age 16.
I mean, obviously I
By the
like
time
it,
the
otherwise I wouldn't be
Half-Blood
buying
Prince
it
came
every
out,
year.
Coulson would have been just a little bit
But
too old
yeah,
for it,
some of them are nice.
which
some
is
of the
why I
flavours are
expect
okay
they
and
cast
some
Delaney. While Delaney
make
was
you
good,
sick.
I do think that Coulson was a bit better. Coulson
I mean, I
was
suppose if you're buying that
easy
much, the
to
30%
play
discount
both sides.
from the streamer code is...
He could convince
Andy?
to portray the good,
Yeah, true.
while the teachers were
I
bad.
get the
He also had
worldwide
the difficult
shipping
portraying
one,
the more evil
the
side.
free worldwide
Delaney
shipping
was just
code,
sort of a bit creepy all the time.
because
And that
because of
concludes
how
this
many
fine
they have like
actors
an
who played
XP system
The
when you buy
present
with them.
timeline Voldemort was showcased
And if
by
you have
Bremer
like
and later
a
Fiennes.
gold tier,
The 16-year-old
you
Voldemort
can
was
stack
showcased
2
by
codes
Coulson,
basically.
Delaney,
Or at least I
and the
can.
11-year-old Voldemort was showcased by Tiffin.
So 33% with a streamer
Let me
plus
know who your favourites
free
were
worldwide
and why.
shipping.
Also,
That's
what do
not
you guys
bad,
think
lol.
of the background?
Easy.
Until next time, you're a wizard.
You pay way more without that.
I also know shops that sell it in Europe.
But like last time when I wanted to. Well, there was
Hey
one
guys,
site, sorry, but
welcome
like it
to
was
the
all sold
installment
out.
of Harry Potter.
Was it
In
like
this
a
video,
green
we're going to be
website?
discussing
Mhm.
the appearance of
Yeah, yeah.
Voldemort.
That was when I wanted to get it again, so then that's why I got that random one off Amazon that I told you.
Now,
So I
when
couldn't
the
bother.
films first started up, Voldemort
That's
was
where
the
I
back.
was gonna buy it from, but that's when I
Because
realised I
of
could
this, we
stack
see
2
him sort of
codes.
awkwardly shift from one
Someone else
form
can
to the
open the
next,
store.
transitioning from a wisp
Easy
to
far.
a face on the back of
I opened the
Voldemort's
first two.
head, to a rudimentary form, and then finally.
Dude, I feel like in public game, honestly.
But what
Bro, you have...
no,
The yellow has more points, he needs to open the door.
where he possesses
No, okay, don't revive yellow.
the makeup and had
It cracks me up.
Let's kick things off by
Like, yeah, I'm not
looking at
reviving you now for the
appearance
rest of the game.
of the step. A film
Pops his
you
parka,
achieve
just
thanks
leaves
to
because he
possession.
dies. Or some shit.
The following
That's
excerpt
literally
from
what
the
they
book
do.
describes Harry's reaction to the initial unveiling
I used to go on public just to fuck about. I'd go on DE and then I'd sit by the
Quirrell reached up and began
by
to
the
wrap his
so then I get lightning
what was
first.
going on.
They always
Turpin
used to leave
fell
after that.
Yeah,
His
they
head
do.
looked strangely
Same on
The
Origins if you steal the ice stuff.
slowly on.
Uh-huh. The rage you get
Harry
from that
wouldn't
is so
scream.
hilarious.
And ice stuff is so fucking dumb for
Where
public
there
games,
should
I
have been
swear,
a
it's
back to
useless.
Quirrell's head,
It's the worst
I got
stuff you can get.
I think I got a DM from every single player afterwards screaming at me because I killed them.
chalk white, with glaring red eyes.
The reactions are the best part, not even the fact that they leave.
Harry.
What you want to do, right?
Now, the
Is
first
you
thing
play
I
Moon,
mentioned about
old
the
school
hideous
Moon,
form of Voldemort
and you just don't
played by a
teleport.
different actor,
You just wait for the react.
which for obvious
Yeah.
reasons made him look.
I've done that,
The second
Yeah,
thing
so-
where
but I was alone in the game after 11 rounds.
between the film adaptation and the book, where the book describes
Nah, when
Voldemort
everyone
having
leaves, you just.
glaring red eyes. The film
Well,
version shows
when
Voldemort
someone
as a
leaves,
very
it's
different
normally the
storytelling.
hosts.
I can't quite make it out, at least with
Yeah, host
Edward's
migration on
portrayal of
public
this
is so
character, but
dodgy.
it definitely
No, I'm-
It ends in game
On
out.
old
Next,
school
the
BO1,
book
it
describes
just says the host is under the
slits for
game.
nostril.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
it does.
there we go.
Short here once again.
I knew the French coffee is gonna do the trick.
Full nose with thin looking
Do
nostrils.
not move the fucking.
And lastly,
Don't hit it
the book
anymore.
states that his face is chalk
He hit it
white.
like once, didn't he? Or twice?
You hit it twice. You hit it the third time, it'll move now.
Overall, I was basically satisfied with the way that Voldemort looked.
I think we actually moved the box in our
I felt
game.
that there
It's
was
so annoying.
definitely room for improvement.
No, we
He
didn't.
was certainly creepy looking, but
We
the most
didn't.
terrible face Harry had
To
ever
come and
seen,
like scream at you.
surely
Oh yeah, I said I was gonna hit and you were like, no!
I think that there was an alternate plot that they could have used to betray Voldemort.
Fuck off.
There is one. I present
Fuck
to you
off.
the design for the
Fucking sniper rifle.
Voldemort Quirrell head that never got any screen time. Now,
I reckon
this
I
is
know.
the most terrible face you've ever seen in
Yeah,
Harry
I got
Potter,
through that.
and I don't know what films you've been watching. This thing gives Fenrir Greyback the lessons learned. What you're looking at is the alternate design for the Dark Lord.
So what do we do? I forgot to
that
set
they
up.
Actually almost used
Double
in
tap.
the
You
films.
play around and do. Oh,
Fortunately
it's
for your
dodge.
Where's double tap?
They went with
Well,
the
yeah,
other design,
Yeah.
but it's interesting to imagine this being used in the films,
Imagine having a world record and not knowing the map.
rendering them unable to sleep.
I know, right?
What this photo reveals is that Voldemort
I hate this
is
gun because when you
intended to
swap
have much
weapons,
more of
it
a
fucking
monstrous appearance,
gives me the grenade
complete
launcher.
with animalistic features, sharp teeth, glaring eyes, and something that represents a creature far more than.
Gun is at the vault.
Funnily enough, this design actually
Like
much
that,
more
right?
closely resembles
wanna
the
hit
book's depiction
them?
of Voldemort's character.
Oh yeah,
So I wonder why they didn't just bold
forgot that was there.
Probably Zia would want to hit it
ready
first.
such traumatic experience.
Whatever.
Overall, I'm happy with the direction that they went. It's fine.
Lucky crit, yay!
But still feel that it could have been improved upon.
Oh, I got
It's a
Alchem.
halfway between the proposed
Nice.
prop
That's
design
fun. Okay,
and
with
the
the
finalized
on
version
spawn.
of Fine's depiction of Voldemort that we see on screen.
There's once.
What do you guys think? Which Voldemort
See?
would you have preferred to see? The one that they actually used,
Okay,
or
baby.
the design that was left to pick up dust? Let me know down in the comments section below. Until next time,
Oh
you're
shit.
Wizard Harry. Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. Since you guys enjoyed the all Hogwarts subjects video so much, I thought we'd make one
Gun is at the EBR.
professors. This list will include all past and present professors that we know by name. Obviously, this list will cover all professors since Hogwarts' inception.
Dude, this gun is terrible.
A much longer list.
I swear.
But realistically, we don't know the name of them again, so we'll just run with what we know. We also won't be including other Hogwarts staff or headmasters, unless they taught as well. Without the professors of the Wizarding World, young witches and wizards would be entirely left to their own devices. There would be a lot less order, far more stressed out parents, and a lot more
Oh shit.
Hogwarts gives students a place to be themselves, interacting with the children, and truly tune in
All the
to
time,
their
okay.
abilities. If it wasn't for all of the professors on the list, that would never be possible. So without further ado, here's the list of professors, past and present, at Hogwarts. Number 1. Aurora Sinistra. Aurora Sinistra is the astronomy teacher at Hogwarts. She's a British witch that taught students all about the events of the night sky, filling them in on all info of stars, constellations, moons. The lessons are taught in
Alright, boys, we gotta do something. I have no ammo.
use.
I have M1 ammo.
Number 2. Albus Dumbledore.
Run over to the next
Yes.
box of taking.
Many know this character already. We know Dumbledore primarily as the headmaster of
Uh,
Hogwarts.
Soul box
Before that,
location.
Dumbledore was actually a teacher.
Is that usable, the thingy here? I don't know.
Taught Transfiguration, as well as defense against the dark arts. Number 3. Electo Caro.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Caro was a pure
It didn't even buy it.
Muggle studies professor at Hogwarts. She was
So when you swap weapons, you have a
She
a
noted
little
that
grenade
her
launcher.
hits on the course.
Soul box.
And when the course formally taught students about how to integrate with the Muggle world,
Oh shit.
Electo taught her students that Muggles were no better than
Oh, I got no ammo.
Number 4.
So,
Amicus Carrow. Amicus Carrow
Tegan?
is the
So it's
brother of
Tegan?
Electo Carrow, a dark,
it's
purebred
literally an
wizard
insta. I'm gonna take an after the insta.
arts professor.
Just knife them for now, you don't get that many.
Similar to Electo, Amicus puts his own spin on the subject and changed defense against the dark arts to basically dark arts, teaching students how to effectively practice the unforgivable curses. Number 5.
Oh, we got a drop.
Alistair Moody slash
Oh, it's here.
Nicholas Crouch Jr.
Oh.
Technically, it was Alistair Moody that was appointed as Defense Against the Dark Arts professor. However, it turned
I
out
have the OSA, I'm not sure I want to pack this.
Martinez Crouch Jr.
Did we pack the M1? I don't remember.
Alistair Moody
Oh.
In fact, the whole
Martinez Crouch,
Got
the
to earlier.
deputy and the son of Martinez Crouch Sr., the Ministry of Magic official. Number 6. Bathsheba.
I'm just looking for a part.
Bathsheba Babylon.
Right,
is a
let's go
British
over by it. Yeah.
professor of ancient runes. In her ancient runes course, she teaches students about runology, which involves deciphering and translating ancient runes.
Of course, I'm gonna miss out on
Number
Joke.
7. Professor Bartholomew. Professor Bartholomew is a British
That's
wizard,
joke, no.
former ancient master at Hogwarts. He taught at the school for
Alright.
quite a long time, and he used St. Nicholas to
Can I shoot the dogs,
form
please?
his
so I can buy jerk.
Number 8. Cuthbert Binn. Cuthbert Binn is a British wizard and history of magic professor at Hogwarts. Binn's taught at the school while alive,
Who needs Jack?
died one day without noticing.
Okay,
continues
it's
to
to our
teach
right.
as a ghost.
The door.
His lessons are some of the most boring at Hogwarts, and the highlight of his class enters the room through the chalkboard. Number 9. Charity Burbage.
The door to our right.
Charity Burbage
This one?
was a British witch who taught Muggle studies at Hogwarts.
Yo, what's up, Wonder? How you doing, bro?
Unlike Electo Caro, Burbage had the belief that Muggles, witches, and wizards were cut from the same
Can I
cloth.
go back to the
Maybe not so different.
two
For her
spawn?
publications on Muggle and Wizard
The what, G?
she was
G
brutally
spawn.
tortured and murdered by
Alright, G.
which is gruesomely depicted in the Death
Yes. G.
Number 10. Dolores Umbridge. There's
Technically,
basically nothing
come on.
good about Dolores Umbridge. She's a half-blood witch who taught at Hogwarts after she was placed there by the Ministry. She taught the principles of dark arts for a brief stint, then became High Inquisitor.
I need to get the Volk and then I need double tap at some point.
Number 11. Ferenzi. Not everyone knows about this. Ferenzi was a saint.
It's your Mooney
Saint
magic in it,
Centaur
fam.
who saved from the Forbidden Forest and the Lost Stone. Ferenzi was appointed as the divination officer from 1996 to
I was gonna play Origins, but Mooney begged me to play, so here we are. This is extent.
Phileas Flitwick. Phileas Flitwick was a British wizard, dueling champion, Ravenclaw, charms expert. He was the
Hey, you
resident
wanted to do a
charm
montage
expert
of a co-op records? There's your chance. I can give you some clips for the duo touch.
Snape, and more. Number 13. Professor
Yeah, one more.
I doubt you know this.
Or till 18 if you want.
Fortinbras was a British witch and the former
I'm
child
gonna be AFK, like, after.
long preceding
LOL?
She taught around the same time as Professor Bartholomew, and also knew St. Nicholas the Orpington person. Number 14. Gilderoy Lockhart. Which week is most harmless
No,
smile.
not really. I just want something to get back into editing.
Half-blood wizard who authored books.
Again, here's your
His
chance.
books explain in great detail
of this shitty map.
I mean, Zay made a first room montage, so anything's possible.
First room montage is actually okay.
Yeah,
Also,
on,
what is it going for?
Okay, I'm out of ammo.
Super high round cover.
Tom Riddle was initially one of the students,
There's incident.
and after he gained study
Not sure if I should feature or not.
Riddle was of course famously turned down, which resulted in him forever chased the position. Number 16. Herbert
What map's
Beery.
this? Extinct.
Herbert Beery was a British wizard who taught under Virginia. He was the professor of pathology,
There's...
and later left the posting to teach at the Wizarding Academy.
Do we still camping or no?
W.
I suppose we do, yeah.
Number 17.
We need ammo though.
Horace Slughorn.
Yeah, so do I.
Horace Slughorn is a British
I'll let
wizard
him
with
breathe.
a long history at the school. He was head of Slytherin House and also served as potion master. Slughorn infamously told Tom Riddle about
if
the
we don't
resistance.
get it after this,
Slughorn's
we'll
failed number
just go over to
accounts
the
led to his
second soul.
posting. Slughorn later returned to the
So
school
get ready to run, basically.
Number 18.
Okay.
Minerva McGonagall. Minerva
He
McGonagall
just
was a
wasted
Scottish
the
archer
gunshot
who
cover.
taught at Hogwarts School
There we
for
go.
many years.
Run, yep.
She first attended the school as a Gryffindor and later assumed the role of Transfiguration Professor. While at Hogwarts, she was also head of Gryffindor House, deputy headmistress, and eventually headmistress. Number
Okay,
19.
let's use Tegan to
Neville
fill this.
Longbottom.
Where is it?
We know Neville
Right
as the
there.
Oh, okay.
favorite boy that started Hogwarts at the same time as Harry, Ron, and Hermione. After the Second Wizarding War, Neville pursued his passion in herbology and later assumed the role of Professor of Herbology at Hogwarts, relieving Pomona Sprout. Number 20. Pomona Sprout. Pomona Sprout was a British witch that taught at Hogwarts for many years. She was the head of Hufflepuff House and
Oh,
the head of
nice.
the Herbology Department. She famously teaches Harry, Ron, Hermione, and others about mandrakes.
Well, let's just go back in the
Sprout
teaspoon then, I
was
guess.
succeeded by her former
After the
student,
meet.
Neville Longbottom, as
After the
herbology
meet.
professor. Number 21. Quirinus Quirrell. Ah, the snivelling, spineless Quirrell. Quirrell was a half-blood wizard and a former attendee of Hogwarts. He was initially the Muggle Studies professor, but later assumed the role of defensive dark arts professor. Voldemort possessed Quirrell during the time that he taught dark arts. Number 22. Remus Lupin. Remus Lupin, a half-blood wizard, former Hogwarts attendee, and werewolf.
By Vault, like
He
you call.
taught defense against
Yep.
dark arts at the school. Remus taught his class about
Still
all
been
sorts
around
of
for the zombie
nocturnal
Kappa?
beasts, including Grindylows, Kappas,
I get double tap, yeah?
vampires,
Or no?
werewolves, tinky bugs, and
Oh no, there's a 5 then,
Number
isn't there? 5 or
23.
6.
Rolanda
We're getting the thingy. Should I kill the zombie?
was a British witch
Yeah, yeah.
who worked as a flying instructor at Hogwarts School. Is she a full-on professor? I'm not sure, but she did teach students, and I think that her posting is important enough for her to earn a spot on this list.
Did you get the wolf magical?
Number 24.
Right.
What?
Get it now.
Oh, we can do it right now.
I wanna get Mule first anyway.
Don't get Mule.
At the same time as Tom
What?
Riddle. While
Yeah,
Hagrid
me.
was primarily the keeper of keys and ground at the school, he did end up teaching and became a professor
You don't need Mule.
creatures. In his first lesson, he taught the students all about the creatures.
It did end up badly for me last time, so...
Sylvanus Tiffleburn was a British wizard who, like Hagrid, served as professor for care of creatures. Tiffleburn was a little bit reckless, which is not much well.
By the way, let's stay here for a little bit.
Kettleburn would eventually lose an arm and one
We'll
eye.
try and stay here for as long as we can.
Number 26. Severus Snape. Severus Snape was a half-blood wizard.
They're showing off
multiple
Fortnite.
subjects at
What the
Hogwarts.
fuck?
He started off as potions master.
It's because
where he
they,
taught for 15 years,
apparently they
and
add in
assumed
Rachel.
the role of professor for defense
Oh, no,
against
probably.
dark arts. He would also later become headmaster. of the
It did look
School
really
of
nice,
Science
so I'm not
and
gonna lie when I saw it.
films, one of my favorites. Number 27. Sybil Trelawney. Sybil
You can
Trelawney,
proper see the
British
reflections of
half-blood
everything.
came from a long line of
But
celebrated
still.
In
serial
fact, the one who just camp here to 30 and Zio
Prophecy.
uses his alchemy.
Voldemort
Because the 30 times pretty fucked.
His prophecy, of course, leading to
I don't care.
Potter.
It's like 37, they actually push that shit.
So you gonna G.
And what's our time now?
19.
19. We could probably get a 37 if we stayed in here, boys. You wanna get the 30 as well?
And though it is unconfirmed, she likely taught the advanced version
No, I don't know.
as well. She She was a British witch who liked to give lots of complicated homework, which was a veritable treat for the studious Martha Granger. She talked in classrooms every
Okay,
day.
shoot Magico.
She was known to be very strict and old-fashioned.
Bro, you still didn't.
29. Professor
What?
Swoopstike. Professor Swoopstike.
What?
This guy doesn't have his waff.
Yeah, we said that, and then Mooney was like, it's fine, he doesn't need to get it yet.
Swoopstike was an entomologist and held
Get it now?
extensive knowledge of magical insects. Number 30. Wilhelmina Grubbly Plank. Wilhelmina Grubbly Plank was a British witch and substitute teacher for the care of magical creatures at Hogwarts.
Okay, and shoot now.
She
The
mainly
spawn.
just took over for Hagrid when he was unable to teach. She was a very competent teacher that was said to be very kind-hearted and caring. She was an expert in magic zoology, and though no one ever said, many felt that she was a better professor than Hagrid in the subject, despite his seniority. Though we don't know their names, there would also have been professors throughout history that taught advanced arithmetic, magical art, school studies, magical research, alchemy, and more. And that concludes the list of all the professors, past and present, that taught at Hogwarts. At least the ones that we actually know about. As the school was founded in 990, I'm sure there would have been hundreds of professors throughout the ages. I wonder how the subject evolved over the course of school history. And that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button. Did we miss any professors? We might have. So, if we did, please let us know down in the comment section below. Until next time, you're a wizard, Harry!
So yeah, do you want to shoot a couple of mine with a
Harry
T-gun?
Potter.
Mm-hmm.
In this video, we're going to be discussing Lord Voldemort's loyal followers.
I did.
Death Eaters.
Drops, bro.
No problem.
In fact,
At your
we ranked
service,
the
mate.
top 5 most powerful. Now, we know that when Voldemort was just a boy at school, he was in Slytherin.
I'm just gonna pack
And
my
it was
shit
here
on
that he
dogs.
formed a gang of fellow Slytherin
Yeah, me too.
students. Dumbledore described Quirrell's gang as a mixture of
Yeah.
protecting
Yeah, just let them out. I'm gonna T-gun them. Drop.
seeking a leader who could show
No,
them
magical, not you.
No,
I'm confused.
You do your stuff.
Death Eaters that we see later
I have
on in the book
5
film.
shots, but should
Death
be fine
Eaters are
for now.
pure blood radical supremacists.
I will
They
just
cast
help you on your
curses
on
without
your
remorse
thing.
and torture muggles, half-bloods, and blood traitors alike. There are quite a few Death Eaters that we know by name.
Dude, where's the
but we'll
drops?
just be looking at the 5 most powerful. Number 5.
When you feel like I'm playing
Though
one.
Greyback is not an
Not
official
getting any
full
drops.
status Death Eater, he was still considered to be a low-level Death Eater.
I have 1 shot.
The main
so.
reasons for him never becoming a full-fledged Death Eater were that A, he was a
What's
werewolf,
on that?
and B, he sort of had his own agenda. Greyback was a werewolf known for his animalistic brutality and tendency to target
This
those
is looking good.
particularly children. Remus Lupin's lycanthropy was the result of being bitten by Greyback.
You fucking N-word, give me the
Greyback
drops.
is about as scary as they come.
You fucking
and has
N-word.
also cannibalistic tendencies. His life goal was to infect as many
Well, Lemon?
Among other things,
There we
Greyback
go.
is an impressive duelist, took Ron and Neville's combined efforts to beat him,
It's
and
gonna be
non-verbal
dogs in
magic
it.
expert. Greyback also possessed superhuman
Not
strength,
sure, might
which
be.
can't hurt. It's worth mentioning that Greyback never has a dark mark placed upon his arm.
No.
Signature
Okay.
mark of death.
Good.
Number 4. Antonin Dolohov. Antonin
Sure,
Dolohov
my
was a dark,
thing.
pure-blood
Magical?
wizard, and one of
What?
Lord Voldemort's
What?
most loyal
Never
followers.
mind.
He was involved in both the first and second Wizarding Wars, and was responsible for torturing countless muggles and non-supporters of the Dark Lord. Dolohov was personally responsible for producing the powerful aura of Madame Moody, as well as Remus Lupin. When dueling the powerful Sirius Black, Dolohov held his own. Dolohov's
What AAT
attacks
am I
was
getting?
humiliating
On the swap? Volk.
when faced against
On the swap?
Volk, sorry.
Hermione was able to take
Dead wire
control of the
returns.
situation,
Momentum.
but Dolohov had full
What you said,
control.
10 fucks up your
However,
train.
the famous trio have been able to accomplish some
Yeah, but we're gonna be playing inside of theatre now.
really not.
I mean, I think Mooney should get the Dwyer and magical turns.
Yeah.
You really want to get turns in CO? You sure you can train with it?
Number 3. Barty Crouch.
Sure.
Barty Crouch Jr. was a British pure
Okay, shoot my spawn.
son of Ministry of Magic official Barty Crouch Sr. Crouch Jr. has a rich history of devils and joined them in his teenage years. Among other notable accomplishments, Crouch was the first agent ever to
By the way,
escape
let's
from
run to
Azkaban
pack
in
after this
its
round.
300-year history. Barty famously imprisons the powerful Mad-Eye Moody, then teaches a Hogwarts school for an entire year in his stead. What's so impressive about this?
And if it's faster, I'll manage. It's whatever.
By the powerful Dumbledore. He taught defense against the dark arts and was actually a pretty good professor, teaching his class all about the unforgivable curses. In his earlier years, Barty Crouch Jr. was responsible for torturing Neville's parents and powerful boys, Frank and Alice Longbottom. He was instrumental in Voldemort's resurgence and was eventually reduced to nothing after being kissed by a Dementor, a fate arguably worse than death. Crouch was powerful in every area of magic and was known to be skilled at dueling, potions, charms, transfiguration, occlumency, non-verbal magic, and more. In my opinion, Crouch may be one of the most underrated wizards in all of history. Number 2, Bellatrix Lestrange. You were probably wondering when Bellatrix would show up on this list.
Fireworks.
Bellatrix Lestrange was one of, if not Voldemort's most loyal followers. She was a
What's our
frightening
time?
pureblood witch,
25-30.
and a long line of
Easy.
powerful witches and wizards.
I reckon we
who
can get that
twisted
photo.
Bellatrix was personally responsible for murdering Sirius Black.
I actually thought it was
and
going to be
an extremely
hard.
talented witch. She was
I mean, and didn't we have like a couple of nukes?
basically only came after Dumbledore, Voldemort, and the number 1 spot on this list.
Most of the custom speedruns are dope.
Shoot my ground spawn with a bullet weapon.
Considerable knowledge in the realm.
With a bullet weapon constantly.
She was also an expert duelist, charms expert,
Headshot
powerful
them
opponent, and tenacious warrior. She was one of the most twisted devils.
as they spawn again.
Derived considerable pleasure
Wait, isn't turns like
No.
fucking up the game or something?
She was eventually defeated by
It can at a later round, but I mean, I don't think we're going to get to 90.
I mean, the idea was to get 100.
Oh, well, after 90 is taken away.
Molly,
It might be faster on Frippy.
100, bitch.
number 1.
I know that after 90, if it's hitting them as they're spawning from the ground, it'll cause a game crash.
The defense against the dark arts professor and later headmaster of Hogwarts.
I mean, I guess he can use the fireworks then.
Good guys. He did have a history.
Yeah, after 90, just swap it out for, or after like
Snape, after all,
85, we'll play it safe, swap it out for
prophecy Professor Trelawney had predicted.
fire.
Snape is widely considered to be one of the most
If we don't crash before then.
His skills are really only
Probably
outmatched by Voldemort and
Okay, I'm
Dumbledore,
basically
who are
out
in a
now.
bit of a class of their own. But Snape is extremely powerful nonetheless. During his time at Hogwarts, Snape assumed the identity of the Half-Blood Prince
I have like
and
a clip.
skilled all sorts
Oh.
of spell creations,
Yeah.
its copy and advanced potion making. Among these spells is the powerful and vicious Sectum Sempra. Snape can also fly and is one of only 2 known wizards who are capable of doing it, the other being Voldemort. When Snape duels McGonagall, he is clearly holding back, but is still matching an extremely powerful witch. This is similar to the scene in the Ministry Atrium where Dumbledore is holding back against Voldemort, but to a more significant degree.
So should I just fuck that and go for the Alchemy?
Voldemort is the most accomplished legitimate the world has ever seen,
If you want.
which would mean that him being able to
Okay.
control Voldemort out of his
I have a death machine.
make him one of
Alright.
the most powerful. There's truly no telling what Snape can be able to accomplish.
I need Xbox comes out on 10th of
And I think
November.
that he truly
Mini.
deserves the number 1 spot
Mhm.
on this list. Honourable mentions include Corbin Yaxley, Peter Pettigrew, and Lucius
They reckon it
Malfoy.
comes out
I think
November 19 for the rest of the world.
this list.
Comes out 12
And that's
in
it for this
US
video.
with PS5.
I hope you enjoyed it. What do you think
Lol.
of these rankings? What would you change? Let me know down in the comment section below.
It's quite
Until
funny.
next time, you're a wizard, Harry!
Good night, truckers.
Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. In this video,
Nice
we'll
walk
be discussing
style.
a terrible place where all of the worst witches and wizards in the wizarding world are sent
I'm running to grab
to
gold
repent for
camo.
their
Don't
crimes.
follow.
I am of course talking
I'm
about
just gonna
Azkaban,
pop Alchemy at the
an
beginning.
island fortress that has existed since the 15th century.
Okay, baby.
The name
I'm gonna be slow,
Azkaban
sorry.
is a mixture of the word
That's my
Alcatraz,
bad.
which refers to a famous Muggle island prison, and Abaddon, which is a Hebrew word
By the way, this is one of
place
them
of
magic tricks.
destruction.
Time to monitor it.
This is what I meant.
At
Aim
one
it at
point
the
in
head.
time,
As a
before the
snowman.
fortress was built,
I
Azkaban
was just not
an
as
island.
close.
But when its first inhabitant, the Christus, found the island, he decided to transform it into his own little dark arts experiment. The Christus was a
Magical,
dark
I
wizard
don't want to
who
hit you when I'm
practiced
shooting his
world
spawn.
forms of dark magic, and he was known to lure sailors to the island, then torture them. Before he got there, he was crazy. But after spending a considerable amount of time there, he went completely bonkers. While the Christus lived there, he placed concealment charms on the island so that no one would be able to find it. And after he died, these concealment charms were finally lifted. This is when the British Ministry of Magic first discovered the island. The investigative team from the ministry who first went to Azkaban refused to discuss their findings, other than the fact that the
Alright,
island was
Arkham
infested
Solver.
with Dementors. I don't think we want to know what sort of things happen there. Over the course of its history, Azkaban has been the home to many witches and wizards, including Percival Dumbledore, Martinus Crouch Jr., various Lestrangers, various Gaunts, and many more, just to name a few. Though it was under much scrutiny initially, when the Ministry recognized they could utilize the island to imprison evildoers, they capitalized on this, and began sentencing people to Azkaban. The Ministry of Magic felt that the smaller, existing wizarding prisons that were scattered across the country posed a considerable security risk and put citizens in danger. Makes sense? Azkaban serves as the ultimate prison due to its remote location and the sea of Dementors that make sure the prisoners are in check. Escaping from Azkaban before your sentence is over is punishable by a fate worse than death, a Dementor's kiss. The island itself is located in the North Sea, but the island is said to have never appeared on any map, Muggle or magical. It's suspected that the island was either created or enlarged via magical means. I'm thinking that Christus was probably responsible for that. The North Sea is a marginal sea of the Atlantic Ocean, located between Great Britain, Denmark, Norway, Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, and France. What I want to know is, if it has never appeared on any map, and all we know is that it's in the North Sea, which is gigantic, how are we supposed to find it? Where is it? Fortunately, using context from the books and films, we actually are able to more accurately pinpoint its exact location. Let's start with Chapter 1 of The Half-Blood Prince, The Other Minister. In this very first chapter of the book, Cornelius Fudge gives us a bit of context that can help us to begin to locate
Right.
the island.
Shoot the thingy.
I've just come from Azkaban, Fudge had panted, tipping a large amount of water out of the rim of his bowler hat into his pocket. Middle of the North Sea, you know. Nasty flight. The Dementors are in uproar. He shuddered. They've never had a breakout before. Okay, so with that we can safely determine that it's somewhere in the middle of the North Sea. This helps narrow it down a little bit, and it makes sense that it would be right in the middle of the ocean. What's interesting about this piece of text, however, is that we know that Sirius Black escaped
Oh,
death
you know, man.
by transforming into a dog and swimming to the mainland. The North Sea is 600 miles by 360 miles. Did Sirius swim hundreds of miles to shore in the extremely turbulent waters depicted in the film? Interesting. Brushing that aside, in Chapter 19 of The Prisoner of Azkaban, The Servant of Lord Voldemort, Sirius gives us a clue in the text that can further help us to locate
no, someone's
Azkaban.
I'm gonna mute my mic.
I swam as a dog back to the mainland. I journeyed north and slipped into the Hogwarts grounds as a dog.
The
I've
fuck's
been
gone
living in
off
the
there?
forest ever since. Except when I come to watch the Quidditch, of course. You fly as well as your father did, Harry. What we can
I
extrapolate
don't know,
from this
mine
piece
just
of
had like
text
6.
is that Azkaban Prison is located to the south of Hogwarts, as he had to journey north after swimming.
Gonna probably have to use Alchem this
Using
round,
this
I think.
information and the knowledge that Hogwarts is located somewhere in northern Scotland, we can hone in
Well,
on
depends, I
Azkaban
have
a
19
little bit
shots.
closer. While
What's
pinpointing
the
its
time?
exact location,
33,
possible,
44.
I think that we can safely assume that
33,
Azkaban is
yeah.
located somewhere
Yeah.
off the coast of northern England or southern Scotland. Yorkshire, Northumberland, Edinburgh? We can also deduce that Azkaban, though central within the North Sea, is probably not dead center, as it's
Oh,
entirely
nice.
implausible that Sirius was able to swim hundreds of miles in his dog form. What do you guys think? Are there any other clues which would reveal the location of Azkaban that I'm missing? If so, let me know down in the comments section below. Until next time, you're a Wizard Harry! Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. In this video, we're going to be discussing the lowest of the low, the bottom of the barrel, the darkest of the dark, the wrongly convicted? Azkaban Prison is the famous island fortress where dangerous and dark witches and wizards are sent to pay for their crimes against the wizarding world. Being sent to Azkaban is a supreme punishment, as the fortress is desolate, nearly inescapable, and well, scary. While it's sort of a given that you're going to have a bad time there, it could potentially be even worse if you happen to make eye contact with some of the other residents of the prison. In an effort to contain the most powerful dark witches and wizards, the fortress is used as a last resort.
Oh, we beat it by 2.5 minutes.
Ah, it's not bad.
Knowing that the
I feel we would have lost that if we would have played it pack another round.
We've heard of some of our favourite characters being wrongfully sent there. First Hagrid, who was sent there for 2 months after being wrongfully accused of reopening the Chamber of Secrets.
Okay, shoot
And then, of
Magical.
course, Sirius,
What?
who was falsely
Shoot.
accused of murdering Pettigrew,
How do I do that?
serving Voldemort, betraying the Potters, and murdering
You're gonna
Charles.
fucking shoot. That's how we do it.
Imagine that going there must be difficult,
Just came up to me with his gun.
finding yourself suddenly immersed in an environment where you are surrounded by some of the darkest and most evil things
Nice
in
one,
the world. But haven't you ever wondered who has actually spent time in Azkaban Prison? In this video, we're going to be looking at, in no particular order, 5 interesting cases of witches and wizards that have been imprisoned in the famous island fortress. We won't be looking at the Sirius Blacks, or the Bellatrixes, or any of the obvious prisoners. I want to look at people who are less commonly associated with the island prison. Number 1. Percival Dumbledore. Described in his younger years as a good-looking man with eyes that seemed to twinkle, Percival Dumbledore was a pure-blood wizard, husband to Kendra, father to Aberforth, Ariana, and Albus. Percival's eldest son, Albus, would later become headmaster
So,
of Hogwarts.
How's
and
the
is
progress of your
considered
tutorial,
the
Moni?
greatest wizard of all time. When
Oh
Percival
shit, I was
Dumbledore
doing
was
that.
Albus's sister, Ariana,
Oh.
was 6, she was brutally
to
assaulted
play this
by
map.
3 little boys. The incident
Bro, I sent him a raw full gameplay. Oh, from my perspective.
When Percival found out
I literally forgot.
I totally uploaded like the Shadowplay version without the overlay just for that.
he was sentenced to Azkaban.
I'm out of ammo.
Oh,
Percival
yeah,
never
let's take
explained
over.
the reason for attacking the
I'm
mother,
speaking it now.
as he feared that if they knew of her condition,
They're all widowed, so you
she
can
would
just
be locked
vegan.
away in St.
I think that's the last horde.
This is
Oh,
due
no,
to
maybe
her
not.
existence
No,
being
it's
a
just
hazard
we had a
to the
full horde
statute
there.
of secrecy. This led
That's
to
the
much
last one, didn't it?
speculation about Percival's crime.
Could be
Many
dogs now,
believe
right?
that the attack was driven by a radicalized
I'm just gonna
perspective
play it over by.
blood
I'm
purity,
just gonna grab
which
ammo.
couldn't have been further from the truth.
If it's a
After being
4-under.
locked away in Azkaban, he died.
Yeah, it is, nice.
As
I'm
he
just gonna
was
hit the
a
gum.
bad
Yeah,
person,
okay, then.
I'm sure he never even tried.
I'm probably
to
gonna hit
escape.
it twice.
While we don't have a lot of information that supports
Or even 3
Percival's
times.
level,
Can I afford it? I don't
by
think so.
looking at his son,
Oh, yeah,
we
you
can
can.
infer that
This
he
one
was
can.
probably quite a powerful man. Some
But
power
I'll
is
come.
achieved through talent, tenacity, and willingness to learn. Some power is achieved through genetics and bloodline, and some power is achieved through a combination of the two. I believe that his son Albus Dumbledore's power can be attributed to a combination of the two, with an equal emphasis on talent and genetics. I think that Albus's inherent genetic capability to perform advanced magic was something that was passed on through his father, and for this reason, I think that Percival was probably very powerful in his own right. Next up, we have Marvolo Gaunt. Marvolo Gaunt was a pure-blood wizard, the father of Merope and Morfin Gaunt, and the grandfather of Tom Riddle. The Gaunt family were direct descendants of Salazar Slytherin, one of the extremely powerful 4 founders of Hogwarts. Marvolo Gaunt, with his immediate family members, lived in poverty, the result of centuries of inbreeding, instability, and violence within the family. Though the Gaunts were once very wealthy, it was
Imagine, last time I
unfortunately
used the GAN
lack of
tracker on
sense
Zombacus was when we
were
played
likely
2P on this.
squandered several generations.
At least I don't have to set up my GAMs,
Marvolo's son Morphin was
because I'm
an
using the same.
and showed little consideration for wizarding rules, particularly
Oh,
the
you're gonna need
statute of
crawl
secrets,
space actually.
which
I have
prevents
one.
witches and wizards from
I mean, I have-
Shout, me, I'm just in this corner.
When
I have like a million,
Bob,
I
the
think.
Ministry of Magic's law enforcement squad visited the Gaunt cottage, chaos broke out, and
Actually 400, not a million.
resulted in a battle that imprisoned both
Thought you only
Marvolo
had a couple
and
last
Morphin.
time. You
Marvolo was charged
been
with
hooked up
attacking
with the
wizard
muffin
police,
thing.
resisting arrest,
Yeah, I had a conversation with Magical.
and contempt of Wizengamot. Marvolo Gaunt was found guilty
About
of
what?
all counts and was sentenced
Oh,
to 6 months in the Iron
I don't know, we were just talking and all of a sudden I had GAMs.
came from a powerful magical bloodline.
I don't know how it
He
works.
was not
Must be some magic.
powerful himself. This was the result of bigotry and an inflated sense of self, derived from his pure
You know
blood
they got
status.
sued by Activision
Because he came from a pure
Did they?
bloodline, he felt he was
Rip.
black
because they got sued for the Warzone hacks they made,
and well,
and as part of the agreement, they had to cease and desist
however,
all of their
ironically,
Call of Duty products.
Marvolo had lived his life differently.
So the only thing that's left is
Like
Apex,
any other witch or wizard, he would have
and they
been
deleted their
powerful.
Discord, their website is down.
Backup is so important.
So
Lots of
yeah,
things
You
GG.
wanna,
achieve.
you wanna shoot the
Marvolo,
zombies
being
as
a
they jump
descendant
up?
of Salazar
sorry,
Stalin
what?
himself,
Come on.
would have likely
I'm
had
gonna make the
so
zombies
much
pile
indirect
up.
power.
You
Mhm.
shoot them with your
After
bullet.
all,
Actually,
he was the
I'm
grandfather of
I'm kind of low on
Lord
ammo here.
Oh, you can
Next
use
up, we
Thundergun
have
then.
Igor Karkaroff. Igor Karkaroff was a pure-blood wizard
I was
and the
watching a video,
headmaster
screw
of
you.
Durmstrang Institute. Karkaroff was a bit of a snake and seemed to show allegiance.
Just
to
come
the
over to
rebels
where
of
I am and
the
just shoot
time,
this way. You should be able to
flip-flopping
kill them all.
between Voldemort and the Ministry. He has a very dark past.
Oh, we got
And
Max.
when he was a young Death Eater, he would torture muggles along with Antonin Dolohov and others. While he was a Death Eater, Karkaroff was captured by famous Auror Alistair Moody and was promptly sent to Azkaban.
Can you grab
When the
the
time came
max?
for
too?
Oh, yeah, no, yeah.
trial for his
Yeah, no.
crimes, he blurted out the names of every Death Eater that he could think of, hoping that it would
So we'll take one of the ground
alleviate
spawns. Magical.
by giving the
Take
Ministry
one of those ones.
Augustus Rookwood. The Ministry took leniency with Karkaroff, and he was eventually released from Azkaban. It was shortly after his release that he assumed the position of headmaster at Durmstrang. Next up, we have Sturgis Podmore. Sturgis Podmore was a wizard of the Order of the Phoenix.
It's the 50 SR for this.
He fought in both the First and Second
I don't know.
Visiting
I can
Wars
check,
with the
I
Order.
guess.
Oh, there's none, okay.
Scar,
No.
worn by Moody,
I'd say probably like 1 hour 10.
Ghost, Wizard, Vance, and Jones. The advance guard of the Twin Towers drive to number 12 Grimmauld Place. On August the 12th, 1995, Podmore was posted at the entrance to the Department of Mysteries in an effort to prevent Death Eaters from stealing the prophecy. While standing guard, he was placed under the Imperius curse by Lucius Malfoy and was
So you don't
ordered to
take
steal
that again?
prophecy.
I'm gonna take my ground spawn after this round.
After breaking in, Podmore was
I mean
discovered
my
by
outside
Ministry
spawn.
member Eric Munch.
It's also ground
Podmore
spawn.
was promptly sentenced
Oh,
to
whatever, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Sturgis is said to be an all-around stand-up guy, a loyal member of the Order, and a great friend to Albus Dumbledore. Though Podmore was innocent, he did serve a considerable amount of time in Azkaban.
Yeah, I think that's the best way of doing it, Zio, because you're not shooting directly at the ground spawn, but you can still kill the zombies at the side.
Until March 6. After it was proven that he was under the
Alright.
Imperius curse, Podmore was released from prison
Works for me.
and he rejoined the Order.
Nice, pile them all with it.
And lastly, we have Mundungus
Fuck
Fletcher.
off.
Another Order of the Phoenix member, Mundungus Fletcher was a half-blood wizard with
Sorry.
a rich history of criminal activity. It's actually interesting that he was a member of the Order at all, given his disreputable background. Due to his reputation, Mundungus was not well liked within the Order, but was deeply loyal to his cause.
Okay.
The result of Dumbledore
Guess I'm not playing like that anymore.
troubling someone. We don't really know the details of it. After Sirius died, Mundungus began raiding in the 12 Grimmauld Place, looting and selling all of the valuables that existed inside of the Order's headquarters. Harry actually caught Mundungus doing this, and he disapparated him. No one knew where he went for quite some time, but it was late in the field in the Daily Prophet that Mundungus had been sent to Azkaban for impersonating an Inferius. He wasn't in Azkaban for particularly long, less than a year, and eventually escaped during the mass breakout described by Shacklebolt in 1997. During the Battle of the Seven Potters, everyone was grouped into pairs. Mundungus was paired up with famous Auror Alistair Moody, and is partly responsible for Moody's death. Mundungus is a coward, and when the two were approached by Voldemort, he disapparated, leaving Moody all alone. The killing curse that was meant for Mundungus ended up hitting Moody. And that concludes the list of 5 prisoners of Azkaban that I found to be interesting. When we think of prisoners in Azkaban, our minds always go to Bellatrix Lestrange, Sirius Black. Or at least that's where my mind goes. There have obviously been many more prisoners
my score, can you take
over the
mine?
course of the
First one?
Fortress history. And this was just
Oh,
a
what's that,
sample
yeah?
of 5
What for?
that I
What?
thought were noteworthy.
What?
If you guys want more videos about prisoners inside of Azkaban, let me know down
Bro,
in the
they
comments.
released the fucking mission for Cold War. It
Until
looks
next
fucking
time.
amazing. Sorry, that's all.
You're a wizard, Harry!
Take the front, Magical.
Okay.
Let's take my ground spawn. So, guessing it's going down.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah,
Hello
what's up,
everyone,
Sonic Boy?
and
How you
welcome
doing,
to
bro?
another video on Harry Potter
I
theory.
inspired you. I
Today we're
inspired
going
you
to
to
go
do
over
what?
something that J.K. Rowling revealed
That's fine.
in
How you doing
2006
there?
when a fan asked her what would
Can I hit
Hermione
the gun?
see if
At
she
some
were to look
point?
in
So I
the
haven't
mirror
hit
of
it
Erised.
since.
Now, just a bit of a backstory on the Mirror
I'll
of
let you guys
Erised.
hear.
In case you've forgotten how it works, the Mirror of Erised is a magical mirror that shows us the deepest, most desperate desires of our hearts. This is reflected in the mirror's name, no pun intended, as Erised, flipped around, reads as desire. The mirror itself was made sometime before the end of the 19th century, and is located in the Room of Requirement in Hogwarts. Engraved on the mirror
It
are
was
the
rough,
words
I guess.
Erised, Stra, Eru, Oit, Ub, Kafru, Oit on Wasi, which, backwards,
What time are we
reads
on?
as, I show not your face,
46.
but your
30.
heart's desire. Though it is speculated that the
Awesome.
Mirror of Erised was made for a bit of fun, it's worth noting that the mirror can be exceedingly dangerous, as reflected in this quote by Dumbledore. Men have wasted away before it, not knowing if what they have seen is real or even possible. The danger lies in people.
Can you
losing
kill that
sight
zombie
of
on me?
reality
Never
after
mind, it just
witnessing
died.
Whatever it is they've witnessed in the mirror.
I guess
They
keep
become
that.
obsessed with what
Or
they've
something.
seen and are completely unable to accept that for the time being at least, it's just fantasy, nothing more. It's natural for human beings to desire things that are unattainable, and even more natural to desire them, period. So almost everyone sees something in the mirror. However, it has been expressed that if someone who is completely satisfied, meaning they already have everything that they want in the world, were to look in the mirror, then they would just see themselves looking back at them. The mirror would act in a normal fashion. The Mirror of Erised is also famously shown in the most recent Fantastic Beasts film, Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of
It's
Grindelwald.
running out.
In one iconic scene, the mirror shows a young Albus
It's
Dumbledore
out.
gazing into the mirror and seeing Gellert Grindelwald
Let me know
himself
when you need to
engaging
shoot
in a
over.
bloodbath, in which they swore to never fight each other. Throughout the series, we see some of our favourite characters look into the Mirror of Erised, but not
Kill
all
it.
of them.
Okay.
This gives us some creative freedom to theorize or dig deeper in an attempt to find out what it is that they would see.
Now we know that Harry looked into the mirror in the Philosopher's Stone, in which he saw himself and his parents. Dumbledore looked into the mirror, in which he said he saw himself holding a nice pair of socks. However, if Hermione were to look into the mirror, what would she see? Well, according to An Evening with Harry, Carrie, and Garp, readings and questions number 1 from August 1st, 2006, J.K. Rowling has this to say. When someone asked, I just wanted to know what Hermione would see if she looked into the mirror of Erised, J.K. Rowling responded, well, at the moment, as you know, Harry, Ron, and Hermione have just finished their penultimate year at Hogwarts, and Hermione and Ron have told Harry that they're going to go with him wherever he goes next. So at the moment,
By the
I
way,
think that
someone pick
Hermione
up the
would
middle
see most
piece for
likely the
the
3 of them
shield.
alive and
I have no idea
unscathed
what the
and Voldemort
thing
finished.
is.
But she goes on to continue.
It would have been
I
in
think that
Spawn or
Hermione would
Pirate
also see
Box.
herself closely entwined with another person. At this point, the crowd roars and applauds loudly. I think you can probably guess who. Thank you. Very
No?
good question. I've never been asked that
No.
before. So here we can see the answer for ourselves from J.K. Rowling back in 2006. Now I believe Hermione would see this exact same vision as well, because first and foremost, she is very selfless. So she would love to see her and her friends alive and safe.
Take the
and for
front.
the biggest threat in the world, that being
One side.
Voldemort, to be finished. And now why I think J.K. Rowling added to that is because once Voldemort was dead, then she could focus on herself, and only then. But anything before that, she would make sure her and her friends are safe.
If you guys want a video on what every character would see in the Mirror of Erised,
Nothing.
then let us know down below.
Thanks for watching this quick video on Harry Potter theory. Hope
Do
you
you
have
have
an
any
awesome
videos?
rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next
Yes.
episode. Until then,
You're a wizard, Harry!
Only have 2 bullets left.
Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. In this video, we're going to be discussing Professor Horace Slughorn and his famed Slug Club. Horace Slughorn and his Slug Club are best described in Dumbledore's own words.
Nice.
There we go.
Horace, said Dumbledore, relieving
How's your ammo,
his
Magical?
responsibility to say only this. Likes his
Like
company,
cough.
he also likes the company of the famous, the successful.
You got a max,
powerful.
right?
He
Yeah.
enjoys the feeling that he influences these people. He has never wanted to occupy the throne himself.
Alright, reload.
Prefers the back seat. More room to spread out.
Yeah, cool.
He used to handpick favorites of
Yeah,
Hogwarts,
continue,
Safe?
continue,
sometimes for
continue.
their ambition or their brains, sometimes for their charm or their talent. And he had an uncanny knack for choosing those who would go on to become outstanding in their various fields. Horace formed a kind of club with his favorites to put himself at the center, making introductions, forging useful contacts between members, and always reaping some kind of benefit in return. Whether a free box of his favorite crystallized pineapple, or the chance to recommend the next junior member of the Goblins in the Goblins. Essentially, Horace Slughorn likes to pick favorites from all of his classes. He has a keen eye to identify if someone will go on to achieve greatness in some capacity, and takes great pride in their accomplishments. While we are given some indication as to who is actually in the club in the books and films,
Gonna
we
take
aren't
over.
provided with a complete list. Names are mentioned, and in the film adaptation, Slughorn's wall is shown, where he proudly displays the members of his club. But we want to know more. In the beginning of The Half-Blood Prince, Dumbledore instructs Harry to try and become chosen by Slughorn. I tell you all this, Dumbledore continued, not to turn you against Voldemort, or, as we must now call him, Professor Slughorn, but to put you on your guard. He will undoubtedly try to collect you, Harry. You will be the jewel of his collection, the boy who lived, or, as they call you these days, the chosen one. When Harry first meets Slughorn, Slughorn immediately mentions the similarities between Harry and his parents. Slughorn then discusses Harry's mother, Lily, and explains that she was one of his absolute favourites. Unable to contain himself any longer, Slughorn directs Harry towards the shelf, featuring all of his favourites. All mine, each and every one. Ex-students, I mean. You recognise Barnabas Cup, editor of the Daily Prophet? Always takes my owl should I wish to register an opinion on the news of the day. Gwennig Jones, captain of the Holy Head Harpies. Free tickets whenever I want them. Of course, I haven't been to a match in some time. Ah yes, Regulus Black. No doubt, there is his older brother Sirius. Died a few weeks ago. I
Yeah,
took
I'm
the whole
nearly
Black
out.
family, except Sirius. It's a shame.
Can you shoot now or?
Yep.
I got Regulus when he came along, of course, but I just liked the set. The way that Slughorn discusses his students
And
makes it
stuff.
sound as though they are his possession. However, one thing is undeniable. All of them went to
I'll let you
achieve
do that one and I'll do the other.
or success. Without further ado, here's
Turn
the
doesn't
list
work on
of
this map, I
Slughorn's
swear down.
favorites in
Every single
alphabetical
time I've had it, the zombies have
order.
just stayed still,
Slughorn's first and
like they
second
are here.
tenure as potions master.
Just switching ground spawn.
Number 1, Adrian. Adrian was a student in Slughorn's class in the year 1978. During his first tenure,
But there was zombies right behind it though.
Adrian
So I
was
was
born in the
confused.
year 1960.
It will only go to a
His
zombie if
relationship
the
with
zombie
Slughorn
is
was after
actually
he
on the map.
graduated from Hogwarts. Though Adrian went
Yeah.
on to become a successful photographer for the Daily
But
Prophet,
after
Slughorn
90,
always had
that
fair
glitches out.
reputation.
It tries to go for the ground
Number two,
spawn and then it
Abraxas
goes fucking
Malfoy.
crashes. By the way, you're gonna have to
Abraxas
shoot again.
Malfoy was a pure
Oh,
blood
yeah.
wizard,
Fuck.
father to Lucius Malfoy,
Sorry.
and grandfather to
Bummer.
Draco Malfoy.
Well, at least on
Abraxas
this
was a
map,
good friend
this
of
is map's the only map
and
where I've
Draco
made it to
attempted
actually
name
go for
drop
a
his
ground spawn.
grandfather's name in an
Yeah.
attempt to join the Slug Club. It's unconfirmed whether Abraxas was actually in the Slug Club, or if he was just friends
It
with
only
Slug.
happens past 19.
Number 3.
But when it
Ambrosius
does,
Flume.
as soon as it hits the ground spawn,
Ambrosius
the game's
Flume was a
immediately
British wizard
freezes.
and business owner. Flume was the proprietor of the popular Honeyduke's sweet shop located in Hogsmeade. Though Flume ran the shop, he was not
How much
the
ammo do we have?
as the shop was first opened in 1641.
Half maybe.
Honeyduke's is famous
Never
for
mind.
its 30 bots every flavour beans,
Oh,
among other
yeah.
things. Number 4. Avery.
What guns?
Avery was
do
a
they
pureblood wizard who attended Hogwarts at the same time
guns?
as Tom Riddle. He was
Oh,
part of
guns.
Tom Riddle's gang that would eventually go on to become the
Four
first
hits into a second.
Executive. Avery was a student of Slytherin House and is actually pictured in the film adaptation of The Half-Blood Prince. Number 5. Barnabas Cuff. Barnabas Cuff was a pureblood wizard that became editor-in-chief of
Looks like
Daily
no one's
Copy.
hitting all here.
Cuff was presumably
Yes,
the
no, it's
employer
Oscar
of
Mount.
fellow Slug Club member Adrian. In order to join the club, it's likely that Cuff was either A, an exceptional student,
Can we get
or
this
B,
Oscar Mount as well?
came from a famous magical background. Number 6. Blaise Zabini. Blaise Zabini was a pureblood wizard that attended Hogwarts around the same time as Harry Potter. He was a member of Slytherin House and was on good terms with Draco Malfoy and his gang.
What's the
Blaise
time?
was a quiet boy. that was
55-30.
himself, although on various occasions he expressed his extreme prejudice towards muggles, muggleborns, and blood traitors. Number 7. BC. We see the initials BC scribbled onto a photograph that is on Slughorn's wall of favourites. BC appears to be some sort of mountain climber, and is depicted on some sort of a snowy mountaintop. It's possible that BC may be Barty Crouch Jr. or Barty Crouch Sr., though it's unlikely that it would have been the former, as Slughorn completely disassociates himself from Rough. Number 8. Cormac McLagan. Cormac McLagan is Hermione's favourite. Not serious. Cormac McLagan is a British pureblood wizard and member of the McLagan family, which Slughorn knew well. In the Slug Club, Slughorn and McLagan had the following exchange. Now you, Cormac, I happen to know you see a lot of your Uncle Tiberius, because he has a rather splendid picture of the two of you hunting nogtails in, I think, Norfolk? Oh yeah, that was fun, that was. We went with Bertie Higgs and Rufus Scrimger. This was before he became minister, obviously. Number 9. Dahlia F. Dahlia F is pictured on the Slughorn's wall in the film adaptation of The Half-Blood Prince. It's likely that she was an opera singer, as she is shown wearing a full Viking maiden costume in the picture on his shelf. Number 10. Dirk Cresswell. Dirk
PlayStation
Cresswell
totally
was a
undercut Xbox pricing again, really.
liaison office in the Ministry of Magic. During the ministry takeover by Lord Voldemort,
Why? What's
Cresswell
this
attempted to hide his
versus?
heritage by forging a tree. However, he was found out. Cresswell was
And
eventually
360
murdered by
for the
snatchers
digital
of
version,
blood. Number 11.
450 for the
Eldred
normal.
Warple. Eldred Warple was a pureblood
I'm gonna
wizard
pop
and Slug Club
Arkham, by the
member
way.
that would go on to become a successful writer.
Xbox
Warple is
is
shown in the film
300
adaptation
and
of The
500.
Half-Blood Prince at the Christmas
I'm
dinner.
popping Alchem's in.
Warple
Yeah, I
was
know.
friends with a vampire named Sanguini, and wrote a book entitled Blood Brothers, My Life Amongst the Vampires. Number 12. Flora Carroll. Flora
Just shoot
Carroll
the ground
is a
spell
British
magical.
witch and member of Slytherin House.
So he can
Though it is
spam
not
the
explicitly stated,
outside spawn.
I would imagine that she is somehow related to Death Eaters Electo and Amicus.
I'm just spamming my vault
It's likely
bots
that
in,
Flora
so it's
and her
faster.
sister, Hestia, were members of the Slug Club due to their pureblood
that up.
heritage. Number 13. Ginny Weasley. Ginny Weasley was a pureblood witch and member of
Spam
the
your
Weasley
thing
family,
with the thing.
the sister
with
to
the
Bill,
death, and I'll
Charlie,
spam the
Percy,
ground
Fred,
spell with the-
George, and Ron. Ginny would go on to achieve great things, eventually becoming a professional Quidditch
Let me
player
know when it's
at
out.
Lovely Head Harkins. She also married Harry Potter, and the pair had 3 children, James, Albus, and Lily. Number 14. Gwennig Jones. Gwennig Jones was a Welsh witch who began attending Hogwarts in the year 1979.
Out.
Gwennig is pictured on Slughorn's shelf in the film adaptation of
By the way, I'm out of Arkham, but I
After
think I'm
graduating
just
from
gonna pop another
Hogwarts,
one.
Gwennig
Unless you
would
don't
go
want
on
me
to
to.
become captain and beater of the Welsh all-female Quidditch team. the Holy
We can
Grail.
just go for drops.
Number 15. Harry Potter.
Yeah, just go for
Okay,
drops,
you
then.
might
Do you
say
have
this
ammo
now.
magical?
I'll skip the introduction, but Harry
Okay,
Weasley
shoot
became
the
a
outside.
member of Slughorn's club after allowing himself to become collected. He did this by
Sorry, I
using
was
the
like half listening.
potion class with the help of the Half-Blood Prince's
Oh.
potion book. However, with Harry's reputation,
By the way,
Slughorn
that's why you throw
would have
2.
eventually collected him regardless
So, yeah.
of how well he performed in the class. Number 16. Hermione Granger. Hermione was a Muggle-born witch and member of the famous trio. She was an exceptionally gifted witch and by far the best student of her year. For this reason, it was inevitable that she would be picked up by Horace for the Slug Club. Hermione would eventually go on to become Minister for Magic. Number 17. Hestia
Not quite
Carrow,
what you wanted.
the sister of Flora Carrow and another member of the
What
Carrow
do you
family.
get?
Like
Nope.
Flora, it's likely that she is somehow related to Death Eaters Amicus and Electo Carrow. At the beginning of the Battle of Hogwarts, Hestia and her sister were seen
Had to take my
departing
widows
from
back.
Number 18. Lestrange. Lestrange is another name that we hear quite a bit. Lestrange, like Avery, is one of the original members of Tom Riddle's gang.
Nice.
The same gang that would go on to become Death Eaters. Lestrange is shown in a flashback in the film adaptation of The Half-Blood Prince.
Oh,
It's likely that Lestrange was the father of Rodolphus Lestrange, who would later marry Bellatrix. Number 19. Lily Evans. Lily Evans was a Muggle-born witch and Harry Potter's mother. She was an impressive witch with a particular talent in potions, making her one of Slughorn's favorites. When Voldemort attempted to murder her and her family, she went on to cast the famous Sacrificial Protection, which saved Harry's life and ended Voldemort for a period of time. Number 20. Lucius Malfoy. Lucius Malfoy was a pureblood wizard that came from the famous Malfoy family. He was the father of Draco Malfoy and son of Abraxas Malfoy, who was a friend of Slughorn's. It is stated that during Lucius's time at school, he was exceptionally gifted at potions, earning the attention of Horace Slughorn. Though Lucius was a loyal
Oh, by
Death
the way,
Eater
Zio,
for
did you
years,
see
him and his
the
family
evil
eventually
Christmas snow
defected from
power I
Death
did?
Eaters. Number 21. Melinda Bobbin.
No.
Melinda Bobbin was a British witch
Right.
who attended Hogwarts at the same time as the trio.
What's wrong with Evil Christmas No
Bobbin's family
Power?
owned a large chain of apothecaries. And for perhaps
Basically,
this reason alone,
There was
she was
like
invited
3
to the
submissions
Slug Club.
tied
Number 22.
at like
Not.
32,
Not
34,
was a pureblood
38.
wizard and one of the earliest
So I
Death
thought,
Eaters.
oh, this is going to be really
the Not
difficult,
family part
right?
of the Sacred 28. The 28
Literally got to
pureblood
78
wizards
first
were
time.
still truly pureblood at the time of
At
the
76.
Nick had like 38 and he was like, oh, it's probably quite hard.
gang and was a friend of Slughorn for many years. Slughorn would later cut ties with
And
Nott,
there's actually
as Nott
3,
would go on to
no,
do
2
unthinkable
members of
things
staff
in
on
the
that
name
leader
of
one
Death
as well.
Eaters. Number 23. Regulus Black. Regulus Black was a pureblood wizard and member of the famous Black family. He was the son of Orion and Warburg of Black.
I will need to sit one day and take that record.
Regulus was a
The
member of
shipment
Slytherin
one
House
from
and
that
would go on
guy.
to become a seeker for their Quidditch team.
That's it.
In the film adaptation of The Half-Blood
I
Prince,
mean,
Slughorn
he just
points out
got
the
better
photo of
RNG
Regulus
than
and
I did.
Harry. Number 24. Severus
That's
Snape.
all it
What?
is.
Severus Snape
What
was a half-blood
shipment
wizard,
record?
potions master,
I mean, he's got the 32, right?
Hogwarts headmaster, and Death Eater defector.
Yeah, I shot
Snape
magical.
was invited to join the Slug Club because of his obvious
Snape
talent in
defect?
the art of potion making.
Lol.
Nice to meet you.
While a student at Hogwarts, Snape assumed the alias
Give me some
of
20
Half-Blood
seconds
Prince
warning, yeah?
and wrote all sorts of tips and tricks into his copy of Advanced Potion Making. The same copy that Harry would later find. Number 25. Tom Riddle. Tom Riddle goes by another name. Lord Voldemort.
Just spam it magical, there's a...
Tom Riddle was,
Is there a max
like
in there?
Harry,
Yeah, there's a
one
max
of
in there.
Slughorn's absolute favorites. While a student at Hogwarts, Riddle was a very impressive student who expressed
me
some
about
power
to so I can
to
reload.
learn.
2...
There was one particular
What?
branch of magic,
Getting it?
however, that Riddle may have learned a little bit too much about. It has been expressed
get
that
one of those
Slughorn was
forms?
responsible for providing
Oh,
Riddle
yeah, sure.
with information
I'll
on
put it back on.
Horcruxes, which were instrumental in Voldemort's rise in power. Number 26. Unknown name. Though we don't
Yeah,
know
what
the
are you
name of
talking
this
about as a
Slughorn
young
member,
first
we
one?
know that someone in Slughorn
Yes, shipment.
67
Shipment, first
would go
one.
on to become
Oh.
the minister of
Someone
magical
took his solo.
education. Number 27.
And
I
then
thought
he
you
Andy
said
Slinker.
shit, I was
The
gonna
last
say.
member of Horace's Slug Club was
that
Andy
mouth
Slinker.
is gotta
He was a
be.
British witch and author. In the film adaptation of The Half-Blood Prince, Slinkard is shown in a photograph on Slughorn's wall. It's likely that Slinkard is related to Wilbert Slinkard, who is the author of
We're struggling on magic law.
a book that teaches defensive
I
magic
shot up before those guys got me in there.
Umbridge is a known proponent and
The
lacking
one
to
fails
the
in that
entire
spot
list
quite a
of
bit.
Slug Club members. Were you surprised by
You have to
anyone
be
in this
careful
list?
for
I don't
Did
know
I
if that
miss
was
any?
me
Let me know
or
in
the
the
wolf.
comment section.
that. The what can
As
fail.
always, like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content. Until next time,
You're a wizard, Harry!
Sorry, I guess.
Oh, that's a shit dogs actually.
Before we start this video, I noticed that only 15% of you are
Is that
subscribed,
only, or are we
so if you enjoy the
starting?
content,
Oh, yeah.
please hit the subscribe button. Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. In this
Want to go
video,
around for the
we're going to
shield
be discussing
pieces?
the history of the 3
we could do.
unforgivable curses.
We need it.
We will be touching on
you.
where they came from,
I need it.
what they are, why they are considered to be unforgivable, and whether or not you are able
I'll
to
be the
cast
one that
them
needs it
on
if
purpose.
anything, so I don't
Let's
know.
kick things off with a
Probably
quote from
be
Alistair
fine.
Moody, actually Barty Crouch Jr., in chapter
You're hitting
14
or-
of The Goblet of Fire.
Oh
Now,
no, I'm
those
just
3
gonna leave it.
curses, Avada Kedavra, Imperius, and Cruciatus, are known as the unforgivable
Got it.
curses. The use of any one of them on a fellow human being is enough to earn a life sentence in Azkaban. That's what you're up against. That's what I've got to teach you to fight. You need preparing. You need arming. But most of all, you need to practice constant, never ceasing
Okay, I'm close to
vigilance.
next Alchem,
Get out your quills. Copy
if
the
I
step.
need it.
The first thing that you need to
Sure,
know
spell.
is that the unforgivable
Oh, the next
curses
one,
are
then.
3 of the most powerful and sinister spells known
next
to
dog
the
season.
wizarding world. They are
was gonna
tools
say
of the
many
dark
dogs,
arts
right?
and generally only used by the darkest and most sadistic witches and wizards. Let's start by taking a look at each of the 3 unforgivable curses. Number 1. The Imperius Curse. The first unforgivable curse in this list is the Imperius Curse, or Imperio. Imperio comes from the Latin impero, which means I command. Imperio is most often used by dark witches and wizards, and when it is cast on a victim, they are forced to perform the unquestioned bidding of the caster. Being under the control of this spell is said to be like experiencing a wonderful release from any sense of responsibility, making the victim extremely susceptible to any sort of influence from the caster. Because of this adopted carefree attitude, the victim is inclined to carry out tasks for the caster without any sort of moral compass or awareness of the caster's intentions or desires. While under the Imperius Curse, Harry experienced the following. It was the most wonderful feeling. Harry felt a floating sensation as every thought and worry in his head was wiped gently away, leaving nothing but a vague, untraceable happiness. He stood there feeling immensely relaxed, only dimly aware of everyone watching him. Number 2. The Cruciatus Curse. The second unforgivable curse in the list is the Cruciatus Curse, otherwise known as Crucio. Crucio literally translates to I torture in Latin, so you can already begin to get an idea of what this spell does. Crucio is most often used by dark witches and wizards, and a known proponent of Crucio is Bellatrix Lestrange, who used it to torture Alice and Frank Longbottom. When cast, Crucio inflicts excruciating pain on the victim. Pain so excruciating that
Shot
it is
magical?
considered to be torturous. Casting Crucio is said to require
So yeah,
a 1
after this bullet,
M
we're gonna-
incantation, and its effects are said to vary depending on the caster's desires and emotions. To produce the excruciating pain implied by the name, the caster must despise the victim and enjoy causing pain. Harry Potter, after Crucio was cast on him, described it as feeling like his head was being split open while having his bones set on fire. Number 3. Avada Kedavra. The third and most life-threatening curse on the list is, of course, the Killing Curse, otherwise known as Avada Kedavra. Avada Kedavra's purpose is simple. It causes the victim to instantly die. If you want to kill your victim, then this is the spell to use. Lord Voldemort is a proponent of the spell, which creates a blindingly intense green bolt of light right before the victim simply drops dead. There are 2 theories
There's
for
a
how
max.
he died. The first claims
There's an
that the
instant
victim's
max.
internal
Oh,
organs
oh,
cease
wait,
to
and a
function
max, and a
after
max.
being struck, and the
one
second
reload.
claiming that the soul of the victim is magically ripped from their body. The 3 curses are called unforgivable because of their sadistic nature. The spells were deemed too powerful and sadistic to be freely used in the wizarding world, and that is why they warrant a life sentence to Azkaban. The capacity to torture people, control them against their will, and kill them with a simple incantation is not something that can be left unrecognized or unpunishable in society. Using any of the 3 unforgivable curses on another human being, muggle or wizard, would get you sent straight to Azkaban. The only way of getting out of this is if you are able to prove that you are under the control of the Imperius Curse. The reason for these 3 curses being unforgivable is simple: legislation. They were first classified as unforgivable and illegal by the Ministry of Magic in the year 1717. At the same time, the strictest penalties were put in place and attached to their use. Before 1717, we can only assume that they were regarded just like any other spell. And while we don't have any information to support this, there must have
Can I
been
kill that
some
one?
sort of catalyst that made the Ministry truly realize how dangerous these spells were.
Someone?
Gamp was the Minister for Magic at the time the spells were outlawed. With
There's
just
a
one
zombie in
year
front of
left
me.
his term. Perhaps something happened involving
Thank
these
you.
spells that threatened his position. I can only imagine the chaos that
Had to
someone
waste
like
the
the
workshop
Imperious
on it.
Curse would cause in a government structure like that. Perhaps a concerned
I
Gamp
was hoping
just
for
outlawed
some
them to further
Terrence or
secure
Deadwire.
their position. The three
They're not
spells were
Deadwire.
truly set apart from others, and they were very clearly categorized and outlawed. What's interesting, however, is that while these three spells are pretty awful, and their potential for destruction is high, there are other spells that exist in the wizarding world that have the same potential for damage. Why is Sectum Sempra not an unforgivable curse? Perhaps it's just too obscure? Why isn't the highly destructive Fiendfire an unforgivable curse? Perhaps it's just too hard to cast? Why is it okay to completely wipe someone's memories for something like Obliviate? And why is it okay to transform someone into an animal against their will? It seems like there should be legislation that addresses these sorts of spells as well. It's really unclear as to why these three spells have been isolated. Is it just that the unforgivable curses are too inherently
Anything else?
This is where things get a bit
There you go.
tricky.
No?
Just because the three unforgivable curses bear the potential to be destructive, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are inherently evil.
Okay,
I
magic
can
now,
think
shoot.
of some use cases where 2
No.
out of 3 of the unforgivable curses that contradict the evil label that they've been given. First, there's Imperium, which Harry uses on the goblin at Gringotts in order to penetrate the Lestrange vault. Harry didn't manipulate the goblin to any significant extent or hold control over him for any considerable amount of time. He just got what he needed and released the curse. I would argue that this wasn't an evil use of the curse, just a necessary one. Next, there's Avada Kedavra. Snape uses Avada Kedavra on Dumbledore to end his life,
47 or 48.
but it was not a
grams.
malicious murder attempt. It was a preordained outcome that was discussed by all parties. Snape's use of Avada Kedavra on Dumbledore was firstly an act of mercy, as it ended his suffering, and secondly, it was a necessary act that Snape had to perform in order to remain a trusted Death Eater. Had Snape not retained Voldemort's loyalty at this time, then the whole outcome of the books and films could have been completely different, perhaps favoring the bad guys. As for Crucio, it's a little bit harder to make an argument for it not being inherently evil. The whole point of Crucio is to torture someone, which, no matter what the situation is probably never a good thing to do. There are a few other theories as to why these spells are deemed unforgivable, outside of the fact that they are outlawed.
Oh,
Oh,
There is speculation that the
I was actually
There was
hoping we
one.
could
alludes
use...
to the concept of
Oh, never mind.
unforgivable sin, which exists in some faiths. An unforgivable sin is an act that makes salvation impossible. This would make sense with regards
I mean,
to
this should end the
prospective
round,
spells'
right?
effects, particularly the killing
Oh,
curse
the round just started.
and Cruciatus curse. We see many characters
thought we used
perform the
full what?
unforgivable curses in the books and films, and usually when they were mentioned,
No,
we either
never
read
mind.
or
Sorry.
heard the incantation being uttered from the caster's mouth. Voldemort seems to love saying Avada Kedavra, which
Oh.
made me wonder, is it necessary? Though the books and films make it seem like yelling the incantation is always necessary, that actually isn't the case, as there are several instances in which Avada Kedavra and other spells are cast without any sort of incantation. In the Ministry Atrium duel, Voldemort seems to switch back and forth between saying it and not saying it, which is unusual.
I'm almost out
the
on
first
the
time
launch
he
user.
uses it, I have nothing more to say to you, Potter, he said
I'll
quietly.
use Arcan.
You have
because
urged me
I'm
too
on a new
often
cycle.
for too long.
Okay.
Avada Kedavra! And the
Oh,
second
alright,
time
2
he
more
uses
shots
it,
and then.
Voldemort raised his wand, and another jet of
Oh,
green
I've got
light
6
streaked
actually,
at
alright.
Dumbledore, who turned and was gone in a whirling of his cloak. So, if it's not necessary to cite the incantation, I wonder why it's ever uttered at all. In the books, Hermione discusses the advantage of non-verbal magic. Your
I'm out.
adversary has no warning about
Okay,
what
yeah.
kind of magic you're about to perform,
Yeah.
said Hermione, which gives you a split-second advantage.
Want me to spam your
In
corner
the
as well,
case of
Zia, or...
Voldemort using Avada Kedavra
Yeah.
with Dumbledore, he would want every advantage that he could get, so I understand the rationale here. However, I wonder if the power of the spell is somehow mitigated when it's cast non-verbally. If it isn't, then why switch between saying and not saying the incantation? Anyway, to answer the initial question, no, it's not necessary to verbally state the incantation when performing the unforgivable curses. And that's it for this video. I hope that gives you guys a little bit more information on the 3 unforgivable curses. If you guys have any further questions on them, comment them down below. Until next time, you're Wizard Harry!
Personally out. So do you
Hey
want to
guys,
just continue
welcome
farming
to another
drops?
installment
I'll,
of Harry Potter Theory.
Eh,
In this video, we're going to be discussing the Ministry of Magic, or more specifically, all of the departments and levels that exist within the Ministry of Magic. We see
Could be
lots of the
dogs.
departments, and different departments are name-dropped on several occasions throughout the books and films.
but it's not.
But I've never really thought about how many there actually are. Are there any that we don't know about? The Ministry of Magic is of course the primary form of government in the magical world, at least in the UK.
Wow.
Other
alright.
countries have a similar structure of government, but have
It's like
different
insta double
names,
nuke.
i.e.
and then Max
in the
over.
US there is
Yeah.
MACUSA, the Magical Congress of the United States of America. Like a Muggle government, the Ministry's responsibilities are vast, as they are the primary body that attempt to sustain law and order in the magical world. Like any system of government, in an effort to cover as much ground as possible, the primary governmental body is systematically divided to focus on different sectors of the wizarding world. The governmental body in Britain before the Ministry of Magic was the Wizards' Council, which was the longest-serving form of government that served Britain. However, the Wizards' Council lacked structure, and it was time for their antiquated system to be redeveloped for a more modern time. In the year 1707, the Ministry of Magic, that we now know, was formed. A newer and more modern form of government
Mean
that could
I
more
should be
appropriately
shooting
address all of
at
the
you.
concerns of the wizarding world, while simultaneously ensuring that the statute of secrecy is carefully upheld. The core reason for the Ministry's
You want me
existence,
to move then?
summed up quickly,
Yeah.
is explained in this quick exchange between
Means someone
three
has to be shooting when I'm farming, right?
Ministry of Magic messing things up as usual. There's a Ministry of Magic? Of course.
I mean, it's
They wanted
dogs
Dumbledore for
there.
Minister, of
Oh,
course.
okay. Yeah.
But he'd never leave Hogwarts, so old Cornelius Fudge got the job. Bungler if there ever was one. So he pelts Dumbledore with owls every morning, asking for advice. But what does the Ministry of Magic do? Well, their main job is to keep it from the Muggles, but there's still witches and wizards up and down the country. Why? Why? Blimey, Harry. Everyone would be wanting magical solutions to their problems. Now, we're best left alone. This quote highlights that with all that they take on, their ultimate responsibility is to ensure that there is a harmonious and distinctly segregated relationship with the Muggle world. Secrecy is of utmost importance, which is why there are such strict regulations around underage magic, and magic in the Muggle world. If Muggles knew of all that goes on in the wizarding world, then it could really cause quite the kerfuffle. However, while secrecy is important and always takes highest priority,
Can you
there are a
not
number
make
of
turns,
sub-departments inside the
please?
Ministry that function in order to achieve or uphold this ultimate goal. The
Last
Ministry
shot.
of Magic has 7 separate departments in
Amount?
total, which are distributed amongst the 10 levels that the Ministry building offers. One important thing to note is that as the entire Ministry is underground, the higher the floor number, the deeper the floor is. Level by level, let's see what the Ministry of Magic has to offer. Level 1. Level 1 isn't that interesting, and does not house any particular department.
Need to be
The
shooting
first
fast
level
on
is
this one,
used
so
primarily
I'm
as
not-
office space for the Minister of Magic, who oversees all Ministry operations, as well as other administrative staff. Level 2. Level 2 houses the Department of Magical Law Enforcement, which is the largest department of the Ministry. It's arguably the most important department of the Ministry as well, and is responsible for ensuring that all laws are upheld in Britain's wizarding community. Heads of this department have included Barty Crouch Sr., Amelia Bones, Pius Thickness, and others. The Department of Magical Law Enforcement covers a lot of ground, and for
Guaranteed
this reason
dogs.
it is
You want me
subdivided
to grab a
into
shield
various
and then
divisions.
come over?
These divisions are as follows. Firstly, we have the Aura Headquarters. The Aura Headquarters is where all of the highest ranking members of magical law enforcement work. Auras are responsible for dealing with and arresting all manners of dark witches and wizards. The second division is the Improper Use of Magic Office, which is responsible for keeping an eye on witches and wizards.
I'm not
and
hitting,
ensuring
so
they are
we
not
can.
committing violations of magic. It's likely that this office is responsible for the Trace, which alerts them when young witches and wizards
3 hits,
perform
okay.
illegal magic. And thirdly, we have the Wizengamot Administration Services. The Wizengamot is the court of the Wizarding world, the High Court of Law and Parliament.
Yeah, I've guaranteed outcomes.
Wizengamot Administration Services Office is
In next
responsible
to
for any
his.
and all paperwork pertaining to the Wizengamot. Subdivisions of these core
Paper
divisions
time.
include the Administrative Registration Department, the Department of Intoxicating Substances, Hit Wizards, the Investigation Department, the Magical Law Enforcement Patrol, the Ministry of Magic Witch Watchers, the Misuse of Muggle Artifacts Office, and the Office for the Detection and Confiscation of Counterfeit Defensive Spells and Protective Objects. Level 3. Level 3 of the Ministry houses the Department of Magical Accidents and Catastrophes. The primary function of this department is to ensure that all magical damage caused by accidental means are repaired. This department has 3 core divisions. First, the Accidental Magical Reversal Squad. This division is comprised of a team of witches and wizards who are responsible for correcting magical mistakes. This division is of particular importance as it is not uncommon for young or inexperienced witches and wizards to have unfavorable results when learning magic. The second division is the Obliviator Headquarters. This division is responsible for all matters related to the well-known spell Obliviate, which is used to erase memories of someone's mind. Obliviators are responsible for wiping the memories of muggles after witnessing acts of magic. The third division is definitely an interesting one, and is called the Muggle-Worthy Excuse Committee. The sole responsibility of this committee is to come up with excuses for magical accidents or occurrences that take place in the Muggle world. Level 4. Level 4 houses the Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures. This is the second largest department in the Ministry after the Department of Magical Law Enforcement, and is responsible for ensuring that all manners of magical beasts and creatures are kept in check. There are 7 divisions of this department. The first is the Beast Division, which handles all matters pertaining to creatures classified as beast. The second is the Being Division, which handles all matters pertaining to creatures classified as being. And the third is
Okay,
the
shoot.
Spirit Division, which handles all matters pertaining to creatures classified as spirit. A beast is a magical creature that does not have sufficient intelligence to understand laws. A being is a magical creature that should possess sufficient intelligence to understand laws, and a spirit is reserved primarily for ghosts, or those who have passed away. The fourth division is the Goblin Liaison Office, which works to improve relationships between goblins and wizards. The fifth division is the Centaur
I'm gonna grab
Liaison
that.
Office.
You
which
tried
works
to
in a
take
similar
that.
fashion
Okay.
to the other office, but deals with centaurs. The sixth division is the Pest Advisory Board, which helps to deal with infestations in wizarding homes. They're basically pest control. And
Yeah.
lastly, the seventh department
That was
is
my
the
bad.
Office of
Sorry.
Misinformation, which provides the
It
Muggle
doesn't
Prime
really matter
Minister
in this
with
round, I don't
non-magical
think.
explanations for obviously magical events that may
But
affect the
later,
Muggle world.
right?
This division is similar to the Muggle-Worthy Excuse Committee, and they likely work quite closely together. Level 5. Level 5 of the Ministry houses the
Altogether?
Department of Magical Cooperation. The goal of this department is to create discourse and collaborate with witches and wizards from other countries. It is the wizarding equivalent to the British Foreign and Commonwealth Office. This department is broken up into 3 divisions. First, we have the International Magical Trading Standards Body. This division is responsible for overseeing trade practices between international magical bodies. The second division is the International Confederation of Wizards, which is basically the United Nations of the wizarding world. It is an intergovernmental body, and the overseer of this division is called Supreme Mugwump. Dumbledore was Supreme Mugwump for a period of time. The third division is the International Magical Office of Law, which is responsible for monitoring laws and policies put in place by the International Confederation of Wizards. Level 6. Level 6 houses the Department of Magical Transportation. This department is responsible for all
Safety
matters
time?
pertaining to magical transport. There are 4 main divisions of this department. The first is the
Oh.
Flu Network Authority. As we know,
Yeah.
the Flu Network is a
Probably
network
get
of
a better
interconnected
time than that.
fireplaces, bridging wizarding buildings together. In order to use these fireplaces, you need to use Flu powder, which this department regulates. The second division
So
of this
120?
department is Broom Regulatory Control. This division is responsible for ensuring that people are A. riding brooms safely, and B. that broomsticks are in proper, safe working order. It is their responsibility to confiscate brooms they have contaminated. The third division of this department is the Portkey Office. A portkey is a magical object that allows witches and wizards to instantly transport to a specific and defined location. Usually commonplace objects are transformed into portkeys, as to not draw any unnecessary attention.
Right, you wanna start
This
shooting?
division is responsible for
One
overseeing all
sec.
portkey transportation. The fourth division is the Apparition Test Center, which helps to grant apparition licenses to witches and wizards. Apparition is of course a magical
Alright.
means of transportation, akin to teleportation, where the user instantly travels from one location to another. It is a very difficult skill to learn, which is why there is regulation surrounding it. Level 7. Level 7 of the Ministry of Magic is reserved for the Department of Magical Games and Sports. As you might be able to guess by the name, this department is responsible for all wizarding sporting events, most notably Quidditch and the Quidditch World Cup. This department is broken
Not
out
quite
into
what
3
we wanted.
subdivisions. The first division is the British and Irish Quidditch League headquarters, which governs
it's
all
not
aspects of the British and Irish Quidditch League. The second division is the official Gobstones Club. Gobstones is a game that witches and wizards play, and this division is responsible for organising and planning tournaments. The third division is a ludicrous patents office. Just like in the Muggle world, patent refers to intellectual property introducing an idea or concept. And just like in the Muggle world, there are some ridiculous patents that need to be dealt with.
Wanna get that?
This office deals with the licensing of ludicrous patents. Level 8. Level
let
8
them out.
houses no departments, but is the
I'll
location
ward
of
them up,
the
too.
Ministry Atrium, Ministry Reception Area, Fountain of Magical Brethren, and Security.
So yeah, well, I'll hold them
We
off
see
if you
level 8
wanna
in
kill them
films
all.
quite a bit, most notably in
Try and force
Mm.
some of it.
No, I'll just kill them as fast as I can.
Level 9.
Okay.
Level 9 houses the Department of Mysteries, a department that we should all be quite
I have the
familiar
ticket to
with,
force
as it
out,
is
so.
instrumental in books and films. The Department of Mysteries is
Okay.
responsible for studying the mysteries of the wizarding world. Mysteries associated with love, space, thought, time, death, and other things. Basically anything that is unknown. Anything pertaining to this department is highly confidential, and those who work in this department are referred to as unspeakables. The
Nice.
divisions of this department are broken
Max.
up by area of study, and includes the following. The
Reload.
Brain Room, the Hall of Prophecy, the Death Chamber, the Love Chamber, the Space Chamber, and the Time Room. There's also the Room of Doors, which is a large circular room where everything is black. Level 10. On level 10 of the Ministry of Magic exists Courtroom 10, the courtroom where all crimes against wizard kind are addressed. The Council of Magical Law and Wizengamot conduct hearings here, and this is where Death Eaters were charged for their crimes in the Wizarding War. Harry's disciplinary hearing for his use of the Patronus Charm and Little Whinging was also held here. Level 10 is also home to the Muggleborn Registration Commission Forum Courtroom, which was used for hearings pertaining to Muggleborn wizards, as well as the Ministry Detention Area, which is a cell block that holds witches and wizards in between trials, and if convicted, before they're sent to Azkaban. And that concludes all of the levels, departments, divisions, and subdivisions of the Ministry of Magic. I thought that I knew the Ministry well, but when doing research on this topic, it turned out there was a lot that I didn't know. That's it for this video. If you enjoy the content, please remember to like and subscribe. Until next time,
You're a wizard, Harry.
Hey guys, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. In this video, we're going to be discussing Dementors. If you don't know what a Dementor is already, then you've probably been watching the wrong franchise. However, if we don't properly define what a Dementor is, it will be hard to argue whether or not they can die. So I'm going to start with a brief introduction. Dementors are cloaked creatures that are 3 meters tall with dark grey, scabby skin. Dementors are foul creatures that represent unhappiness and despair. They are commonly known as the guards of Azkaban Prison, responsible for ensuring that all of the darkest witches and wizards inside don't escape. Dementors were originally created by J.K. Rowling as a way of representing depression. J.K. Rowling, having experienced depression herself, wanted to create a creature that personified all of the negative
Okay,
aspects
come on.
of depression. When, in an
Same.
interview, Rowling was asked to describe what depression feels like, she said the following. It is that absence of being able to envisage that you will ever be cheerful again, the absence of hope, that very deadening feeling which is so very different from feeling sad. Sad hurts, but it's a healthy feeling. It's a necessary thing to feel. Depression is very different. Which sounds entirely consistent with this independent description of Dementors. Dementors are among the foulest creatures that walk this earth. They infest the darkest, filthiest places. They glory in decay and despair. They drain peace, hope, and happiness out of the air around them. Even Muggles feel their presence, though they can't see them. Get too near a Dementor, and every good feeling, every happy memory will be sucked out of you. If it can, the Dementor will feed on you long enough to reduce you to something like itself, soulless and evil. You'll be left with nothing but the worst experiences of your life. In The Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry witnesses Dementor firsthand. Harry's sense of helplessness during this experience is perfectly described in the following excerpt. An intense cold swept over them all. Harry felt his own breath catch in his chest. The cold went deeper than his skin. It was inside his chest. It was inside his very heart. Harry's eyes rolled up into his head. He couldn't see. He was drowning in cold. There was a rushing in his ears as though of water. He was being dragged downward, the roaring growing louder. And then, from far away, he heard screaming. Terrible, terrified, pleading screams. He wanted to help whoever it was. He tried to move his arms, but couldn't. A thick white fog was swirling around him, inside him. So, are Dementors living? Can they die? There are two theories for how Dementors are created. The first outlines that Dementors do not breed, so to speak, but actually grow, like fungus, under conditions of despair, degradation, and hopelessness. The greater the concentration of these conditions, the more Dementors will appear. The second theory is that Dementors do in fact breed, and while we don't have more information on this, it's supported by the fact that Fudge, in The Half-Blood Prince, mentions that they're breeding, and that the breeding was the cause of all of the mist present in the sky. Regardless of how they're created, one thing is for sure, they are not living creatures. There's something in between. We know that the only known defense against the Dementor is the Patronus charm, which Harry shows us time and time again. A Patronus is a good defense against Dementors because it produces a positive energy force that represents everything that Dementors aren't. The Patronus represents hope, happiness, survival, and purity. As the Patronus does not feel despair or hopelessness, as a human might, the Dementors can't hurt it, and are repelled by its presence. But even though they're repelled by it, it doesn't appear to damage them or hurt them. It definitely doesn't kill them. So, if there's only one way to repel a Dementor, and it doesn't kill them, can they be killed? Can something that's not alive be killed? Are they alive? J.K. Rowling sort of addresses this in the following quote. You cannot destroy Dementors, though you can limit their numbers if you eradicate the conditions
Just from that one ground spawn,
i.e.
from this
despair
one.
and degradation. But this quote doesn't necessarily indicate that they are immortal. It just means that we can't destroy them. What she's saying is that there is no spell, potion, or curse that will eradicate them. The Ministry of Magic classifies Dementors as non-beings, also known as non-human spiritus apparitions. This classification refers to creatures formed out of human emotions. Sounds like a perfect description for Dementor. What we need to remember about non-beings is that they aren't mortal or immortal, they are amortal. This means that they aren't able to die because they were never really alive. They are a raw magical presence that only gives the appearance of being alive. When you cast a Patronus on a Dementor, it either wards it off or reverts it back to its inchoate essence, or rudimentary form. We see a similar sort of remission in physical form to a lesser extent in Voldemort after he's destroyed by his rebound killing. But even though the Dementor is stopped for a period of time, it's never really destroyed for good. The Dementor is just reduced to a lesser form, a form where it's not able to inflict the same harm that it normally could. If you were to place this lesser form back into an environment of despair, degradation, and hopelessness, then it would likely assume its full form again. However, with the presence of a Patronus and all of the positive emotions that it brings with it, it is not a suitable environment for the Dementor to recreate itself.
I mean, it paid off, didn't it?
We can draw more parallels to depression here, as when you are able to overcome depression, it isn't that those underlying feelings or thoughts have completely escaped you. It's just that you've overcome them. When you've overcome depression, you've created a new environment in your mind that is no longer conducive to perpetuating.
And I should probably use my Alchem one.
If you're a happy
We ran
person
out
in
of
general,
everything.
then it gives these negative thoughts less ground to stand on, which means that they would have less influence on your being overall. I hope that answers the question, and I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you enjoy the content, please remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, you're a Wizard Harry! Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. In this video, we're going to be discussing Harry Potter's arch nemesis and the son of Lucius Malfoy, Draco Malfoy. Draco Malfoy was a British pureblood wizard born in the year 1980, the son of Narcissa Malfoy and Death Eater Lucius Malfoy. Draco started at Hogwarts in the same year as Harry, Ron, Hermione, and many of the other characters that we're so familiar with. Right from the beginning, Draco exhibits questionable behavior. He's the archetypal bully, and when he first meets Harry in the film, he extends his hand out to him, but not before taking an easy shot at Ron Weasley, who Harry had also just met. Think my name's funny, do you? No need to ask yours. Red hair and a hand-me-down robe. You must be a Weasley. Harry, having already befriended Ron, is not a fan of Draco's attitude, and when he rejects his handshake, it sparks the catalyst that would result in years of animosity between the two. J.K. Rowling describes Draco's character as follows. Everybody recognizes Draco because everybody has known somebody like him. Such people's belief in their own superiority can be infuriating, laughable, or intimidating, depending on the circumstances in which one meets them. Draco succeeds in provoking all of these feelings in Harry, Ron, and Hermione at one time or another. So, right off the bat, we sort of get a sense of the type of character that Draco Malfoy is going to be. The only reason that he's interested in befriending Harry is because of his affection, and Draco, having been raised in a pure-blood family that places an exceptional amount of value on status, leaps at the opportunity to associate himself with Harry. After the sorting ceremony, Draco is placed into Slytherin House, and Harry is placed into Gryffindor. This is basically the beginning of the rivalry between Draco and Harry. Throughout the books and films, Draco is a constant nuisance to the trio, and as he grows older, his behavior turns from annoying, but still childlike and playful, to rather sinister. Draco, a pure-blood supremacist,
You can't take one of them. You
jumped
take
at
both.
any opportunity to embarrass or
Hello,
insult
Magical?
students in any of the other houses.
Oh, what?
Here's another one
There you
of
go.
Draco's charming lines addressed towards Gryffindor students. You know how I think we choose people for the Gryffindor team? It's people they feel sorry for. See, there's Potter, who's got no parents. Then there's the Weasleys, who've got no money. You should be on the team, Longbottom. You've got no brains. But while Draco was always troublesome, condescending, and just rough to be around in general, I think that it would be fair to say that his behaviour is largely a product of his upbringing. I don't think that Draco is necessarily an inherently bad person. He was just raised by a couple of pure-blood supremacists. One of them is a Death Eater. How would you expect him to be? The very atmosphere that Draco was raised in was poisonous. His father, having followed Lord Voldemort in the First Wizarding War, only avoided imprisonment by claiming that he was under the Imperius Curse for the duration of the war. This, however, was not the case, and Lucius lived in constant regret, having been unsuccessful, along with the other Death Eaters, in bringing Lord Voldemort to power. Image was important to the Malfoys, and having to claim that you were placed under the Imperius Curse, even if to avoid imprisonment, makes you look weak. This weakness ended up being personified in the form of even more hatred towards Muggleborns, half-bloods, half-breeds, and blood traitors. Draco, who was highly influenced by his father, adopted this same attitude, and this formed the person that we saw at Hogwarts, an attitude that was the product of his father's failure and extreme prejudice. As Draco grew older, we witnessed firsthand his evolution from petulant but innocent little boy to sinister and dark young man. What really set him off was the imprisonment of his father after the Battle of the Department of Mysteries, a battle that effectively served as the catalyst and first major conflict of the Second Wizarding War. After Voldemort lures Harry to the Department of Mysteries in an attempt to steal the fabled prophecy, Harry comes face to face with Lucius, who, up until that point, had been able to somewhat save face within the
Zio.
wizarding community.
Mm.
Oh, you don't know Potter as
I
I do,
think-
Bellatrix. He has a great weakness for heroics.
The waff
Dark
fail
Lord
is actually
understands
you
this
hitting
power.
a zombie
Now give me the prophecy.
in the last frame of its
I know
dying
Sirius is here. I know you've
animation.
got him. It's time you learn the difference between life and
Okay.
dreams, Potter. Now give me the prophecy.
I don't
or
know
we start
why,
eating
but
wands. Because Draco's
I
father
just got
was
it then, and
participating
it
in
made
battle
the
with
like
Death Eater,
the
he was
ghost
sent to Azkaban for his
the
crime.
eyes and
Draco was very
mouth
upset by this,
lit up.
and knowing that Harry was involved, swore that he would get
especially you hitting
retribution.
that. That
Where the
acts as
pair
like a
would
fire.
previously get back at each other in the
Oh,
form
I'm
of
out.
harmless pranks or jinxes, this was the beginning of a new, deeper, darker relationship between the two boys. Harry, having been attacked by Draco's father, resented the Malfoy, and Draco, who felt that Harry was responsible for his father's imprisonment,
Somebody shoot.
resented Harry. In year 6, Draco had officially joined the Death Eaters, replacing
Okay,
his
I'm
father,
out.
for the time being, in their ranks. It was during this year that we see Draco in his most sinister, skulking form, having been given a special mission by Voldemort, kill Dumbledore. Draco kept a relatively low profile after joining the ranks of the Death Eaters, but couldn't help but brag about being given a special mission to his fellow Slytherin students. On the train to Hogwarts, Harry overheard parts of the conversation, and Draco, who became aware of Harry's presence after the train stopped, used a full-body bind curse to paralyze Harry. Didn't Mummy ever tell you it was rude to eavesdrop, Potter?
Oh.
Petrificus Totalis! Just before brutally
Maybe
stomping
someone
on
should
Harry's
keep
face and
track
crushing
of
his
that.
nose as revenge for his father's imprisonment, he says the following to Harry.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
Max?
she was dead before you could wipe the drool off your chin. This really symbolized the path that Draco had chosen at this
Ah,
point,
didn't
intent on
mean to
fulfilling the dark
take it.
bidding and avenging his father.
I'm
What were
fucked, I
once
guess.
harmless quips of have become horrible remarks about Harry's dead mother. Over the course of the same school year, Draco appears to be more distraught than ever, completely terrified of failing the Dark Lord's mission and embarrassing his father. What's interesting about Draco's mission, however, is that it has been implied that Voldemort was expected to fail. Assigning this mission to Draco was Voldemort's way of punishing Lucius for his failure at the Department of Mysteries. Draco was barely present
so
in
far.
classes during this school year.
Double and max.
Practicing in British practice and did not fulfill any of his duties as a prefect, the same duties that he would previously enjoy. It was obvious that the pressure was affecting him. As the story progresses, we see Draco become more and more involved with the Death Eaters. But despite talking the talk, it appeared that Draco was almost always hesitant in performing the duties of the Death Eaters when push came to shove. When the trio were caught by Snatchers and Draco was called upon to identify them, he was very hesitant in doing so.
What map should I pick for? It doesn't really matter.
Draco didn't actually want to be the Death Eater. He just wanted to make his parents proud. He didn't want the people that he went to school with for years to die. He just wanted to live up to the family name, even if it wasn't truly him. By the end of the books and films, while it is not explicitly stated or shown, it's rather clear that Draco is remorseful for his actions, and that he was really just the pawn of his father. He was a misguided young boy who just never knew any different, and I think that Harry, among others, were able to recognise this towards the end. It's really quite sad, actually, as without his father's looming presence, he could have perhaps had a more normal childhood. But you may be wondering, what happened to Draco after the Battle of Hogwarts? As he grew even older, what sort of person did he become? J.K. Rowling, after the films ended, expressed that Draco had been sobered by his experiences as a Death Eater, and in a 2014 entry on Pottermore, the following with regards to Draco's character. The biggest revelation was that he became less of a pureblood fanatic. The events of Draco's late teens forever changed his life. He had the beliefs with which he had grown up challenged in the most frightening way. He had experienced terror and despair, seen his parents suffer for their allegiance, and had witnessed the crumbling of all that his family had believed.
I might have a problem with getting
People whom
Max.
Draco had been raised, or else had learned to hate, such as Dumbledore, had offered him help and kindness, and Harry Potter had given him his life. After the events of the Second War, Lucius found his son as affectionate as ever, but refusing to follow the same old, pure bloodline. Draco married the youngest sister of a fellow Slytherin, a story of Greengrass, who had gone through a similar, though less violent.
Nah, I'll burn through all my ammo, I guess, and use mine.
To a more tolerant life view, was felt by Narcissa and Lucius to be something of a disappointment as children. They had had high hopes of a girl whose family featured on the Sacred 28. But as Astoria refused to raise their grandson Scorpius in the belief that Muggles were scum, family gatherings were often fraught with tension. Also, he seemingly mellowed out a bit, leading a life of pleasure instead of working to overturn the forces of light or establish dominion for the Muggles, like Lucius did. I imagine that Draco grew up to lead a modified version of his father's existence. Independently wealthy, without any need to work, Draco inhabits Malfoy Manor.
50.
Messy in his hobbies,
No.
the combination of history and nature.
52 or
The
53.
collection of dark artifacts harks back to family history,
I'm out, by the way.
even though
One
he
more
keeps
shot.
them in glass cases and does not use them.
Okay, then shoot and
His strange
go back in.
interest in alchemical
Yeah.
manuscripts, from which
Just
he
gonna
never
run
attempts to
them.
make a philosopher's stone,
This has been the
hints
first
at a
round
wish
where you
for
have to
something
run them
other than
properly.
wealth, perhaps even a wish to be a better man. I have high hopes that he will raise Scorpius to be a much kinder and more tolerant Malfoy than he was in his own youth. While Draco's character is ultimately one of dubious morality, I like to imagine that over the years, he truly did become a good, sound man. In Rowling's
Bro, I
own
can't get
words,
out.
there is, after all,
Yeah, that
some
happens.
unextinguished good at the heart of Draco.
Okay.
And that's it for this video.
Okay.
I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please let me know down in the comment section below. Until next
You know you
time.
agree with us for that turn.
Wizard Harry. Hey everyone, welcome to an installment of Harry Potter 3. Let me start off by saying a big thank you to all of you for all of your support with the channel.
Okay, cool down.
In this video, we're going to be addressing the question, how did Harry's Expelliarmus match Voldemort's Avada Kedavra in the graveyard scene in Goblet of Fire? What's interesting about this scene is that it almost suggests that Harry is Voldemort's equal, But that is really not the case.
And it crashed.
How did he contend with the Dark Lord
Yeah, it's got
himself?
the ground spawn.
As we know,
No,
this
I
scene
did
marks
not.
the proper return of
Oh.
Lord Voldemort after a long hiatus.
Well,
Before this point in time,
That was
Voldemort
fun.
had still been
Not-
in other weaker forms.
Shit,
First, the
fucking
Wisp
hell.
form,